Time to set the stage with the lights off. Let the little nigga breathe till the fight's lost. You ain't never like the room with the bright sauce. Hail Mary, they despise what the light brought. Let them roach niggas bleed if they can't see. sa.neter TV, what you can't be. They say that murder on my mind, now they can't breathe. Take a picture of the crew, that's your last peep. Oh, and need me your love, yeah, that's just me. Keep them jumping like some frogs, so they might be leave when the sun sets. And they don't really wanna bleed from the gunplay. And like mine, niggas smoking weed on the one-way street, nigga. Yeah, we see we outside with it. Pull up to the base like we might be with it on guard. Side these niggas like bullshit and they fraud. Let me chop them down with the sword. Walk them down like they live bars. Just the toughest you gon' be in, we too hard. And you don't really want that smoke, my G. With sa.neter TV, this the toughest environment, the toughest environment, the toughest environment to be in, toughest environment, the toughest environment, the toughest environment to be in, toughest environment, the toughest environment, the toughest environment to be in, toughest environment, the toughest environment, the toughest environment to be in, the toughest environment, the toughest environment, the toughest environment to be in, toughest environment, the toughest environment, the toughest environment to be in. Keep that off your lip before you get flipped. We got sources over here, we don't just spit. Too many bosses over here, y'all just legit. Put them niggas in the game, let them get ripped. Don't even step unless you come in with that scholarship. That economic tip, gotta make a dollar flip. And I might be next, I don't give a damn, a truth rolling with me, so I'm feeling like the son of man. Too many gon' hate, gotta make a stand. I'm just trying to duck the lake, you don't understand. Read them when I greet them, that's my best plan. Head first shit, I'm just saying. Nigga meet me in LA, oh you just playing. Too many be fake, what the base saying. So I tell them they don't want no smoke before they end up in the newspaper next day. Smoke, this the toughest environment, the toughest environment, the toughest environment to be in. Toughest environment, the toughest environment, the toughest environment to be in. Toughest environment, the toughest environment, the toughest environment to be in. Toughest environment, the toughest environment, the toughest environment to be in. Just the toughest environment, the toughest environment, the toughest environment to be in. Toughest environment, the toughest environment, the toughest environment to be in. Toughest environment, the toughest environment, the toughest environment to be in. Toughest environment, the toughest environment, the toughest environment to be in. And this is it right here. The toughest you gon' ever be in. You wasn't conscious before us. Y'all niggas was asleep. We woke the sleeping giant. We did it. sa.neter TV. So stay your ass in your little box where you feel safe. Cause it's motherfucking monsters over here. Real monsters.
Peace and Pan-Africanism to Brother Herman Smalls in the toughest environment you can be in.
Watching HOK, the House of Consciousness, hosted by the one and only sa.neter. Yeah. Psycho. Right.
Cosmon, you got 5 minutes, brother.
No problem, brother. Thank you. First and foremost, all praises to the ever-present great spirit whose magnitude is incomprehensible and whose presence is everywhere. Love, light, and balance to everybody here that's on the panel. Love and light to CGG and everybody that's viewing. Let's get into it. It's the intro, baby. Science and knowledge does not begin with a specific man or a specific group of men, nor does it begin with a $5,000 book that is bound by the spine of Saw. Science and knowledge begins with all humankind and originates from the book of creation, which exists everywhere and is boundless. Oahpe Book of Discipline, chapter 5, verse 10 through 11, it states, the Great Spirit is as near this day as in the time of the ancients. He's near this day. as in the time of the ancients, huh? Put yourself in order, becoming one with him. And there is no book that is so easily read as his created universe, huh? Inspiration comes less by books than by what the Great Spirit wrote, and that's his worlds. So read him and his works. Huh? What is a book? A book is something that yields knowledge or understanding. So because a Great Spirit's created universe, its stars, its planets, its elements, its conscious beings, its electromagnetic energies, and so on, is the first book written, huh? To yield, to produce, to provide knowledge or understanding, and was written before the existence of any spine-bound book consisting of pages, chapters, verses, or stone walls displaying images of form and figure. Huh? By reading his works, the Great Spirit is encouraging all sons and daughters to be scientists. Huh? So what does it mean to read? Watch this. To read means to learn by observation, to examine, or to inspect. To learn the nature of by observing outward expressions or signs, outward expressions being the external world, being his works. Huh? So what does reading and science have in common? Huh? I'm going to read this from a source. Science can be thought of as both a body of knowledge, the things that we have already discovered, and the process of acquiring new knowledge through what? Through observation and experimentation, testing and hypothesizing. Both knowledge and processes are interdependent. Now, notice the source above said that knowledge and process are interdependent, meaning they are dependent on one another, huh? Thus, if science is the process, then knowledge is the product of reading, observing, creation, huh? So let's drop these key points. To read is to learn the nature of a thing by observation of the external world. To be scientific means to acquire knowledge through experimentation or observation. Thus, both science and reading involve observation of the external world, creation. Again, science is the process and knowledge is the product of that process. Watch this. Oahpe Book of Inspiration, chapter 2, verse 3 through 7, it states, and I made you susceptible. This is the Great Spirit speaking. I made you susceptible so that all things external to yourself could write upon you. Huh? The sum of these is what? Your knowledge. As it is with you, so is it with what? All men and with all the living that I created. Nor is there any knowledge in the world but what I gave. All of it is my inspiration. Thus, proving that the Great Spirit's sons and daughters are all scientists and their creation, the external world, is the book of knowledge, and to which there is no end, and does not limit itself to black skin, to white skin, nor to ancient nor modern civilizations. So whether or not a book is old or brand new, spine-bound books does not dictate what's written in boundless creation. Huh? It's boundless creation that dictates what's written in spine-bound books. Huh? Thus, the objective signs that we observe in reality will forever be a more potent source than impotent mythological gods whose modern followers erroneously associate with the atom, but sits
40 seconds.
But sits on the throne in the image, in the form and image of a man, and stands between humankind and our true creator. In this debate, we will prove whose spine-bound book is best backed by boundless creation with the mathematics, the numbers, the figures, the axioms that demonstrate light and truth, cosmogony, creation, and time. Let's show and prove tonight, baby. I yield the floor.
First of all, let me say thank you to our brother Daryl Cosmon for putting forth a spirited opening. I want to let you know that tonight you are going to see the contrast of a tradition that comes out of deepest Africa 5,000 plus years ago versus a tradition that was supposedly written by a white Manhattan dentist 130 years ago. I want you to understand that as we contrast these positions, you're going to understand how your African ancestors gave the concepts of the universe to the rest of the world, as they gave civilization to the rest of the world. as we go into this deep topic, I want you also understand, followers of Oahpe, that we are going to give your tradition a proper vetting tonight. You're going to hear a lot about the problems with your text, with your founder, and with your tradition. Just as we show you how your Kemetic ancestors gave the world science, mathematics, astronomy. This is the task that we will have tonight. And I'm so pleased to be here with you. Brother Asar.
ETE Imhotep Seni Senet Ankwasta Jed Uncle Jasaneb Dua Hinu for listening. It's your brother Rini Yafasaram Ka, our sister Nebet Head M Shatau, and of course Sabahem Necha Jabari Osaze. We come to bring you the guidance tonight. And what we're gonna do is trap them in what they asked for. They said cosmogony and cosmology. That's the science and the text of how the universe was created. That's exactly what I'll demonstrate in its ancient forms. So when they bring the new math out from the Oahpe text, let's make sure that they get that math correct, because I believe they have some holes in it concerning their structure of the sun and a few other things we'll discuss tonight. But make no mistake about it, the foundations of science and astronomy, the first science, were here. And we're going to talk about those texts this evening. So I'll spend most of my time explaining those texts to you through the Neter rule. So when they say fake gods, fake this, last time I checked, the sun was called Ra before it was called the sun, or Helios, or the other names. And we thought it was alive, and we still think that today. And it's time to revive those concepts as the biosphere thinks humans into existence. So we recognize the earth and have to take care of it. If it was just a floating mass, we could throw trash where we wanted and do what we wanted to do. And that's what you'll see from them. So hold them to their text tonight. And we won't hold their hand tonight, but we will use our hand to properly spank them this evening and hold them to their cosmogony and cosmology they asked.
2 minutes.
Sister Napad, did you have anything to add?
No, thank you. I'm fine, brother. Can you hear me okay?
Continue. Y'all got 2 minutes.
I got it. I just wanted to know if she had something to add. We got it, brother. So understand, when I start to unravel things like it is in the southeastern side behind Punt that this God exists. It is the southeastern side behind Punt, in the southeastern place with the falcon behind Punt, that the God exists, and Ra rises in the morning, and they're explaining the sunrise and how it comes up in the night. Know that these are the ancient texts and the way that they describe things. And we'll cover those things so that you have an understanding of the names, the terminology that was used before you get to numbers, this, that, the other. And make sure that their numbers are right. I heard somebody mention the atom. And I believe that their scientists took the wrong version of the atom. And we'll bring all that out tonight, because we got questions just like they got questions concerning their cosmogony and their cosmology. You shouldn't get it wrong in the 1900s. In the 8000s and BCs, you have room for error. Why? Because these are the priests who created science for you. Let's go. Let's get it in.
All right, Daryl Cosmon. He's up first, round 1, 20 minutes. Make sure y'all get y'all popcorn ready. Go to the bathroom. There's going to be a powerful and long debate. Make no mistake about it. This is a team debate. Y'all ready? Let's go, Daryl Cosmon.
Simply put,
when you start.
Simply put, cosmogony is defined as the branch of science that deals with the origin of the universe, especially the solar system. Creation is the action or the process of bringing something into existence. Oahpe, Book of Thor 4:14, it states, the Great Spirit said, do not think, O man, that there is only one member in my person, and that different conditions and states of that one comprise my universe. The foolish man has said, the blood is the flesh and bones, and the flesh and bones are simply a state of the blood. But he does not see that I do not make flesh out of blood, but out of that which the blood carries. And in the same way, listen up, pay attention. And in the same way, I carry the corpore of my person in the eth of my being. Let's break down corpore, being, and eth. Corpore is what? Physical material. Being is conscious existence, life. Eth is the space and rarefied energy that pervades the universe. So, in other words, space and the rarefied energy of the Great Spirit's conscious existence carries microscopic corporeal substance that build more complex matter in the universe, such as from electrons to atoms and from atoms on up to celestial bodies. Oahpe, Book of Apollo 3:13, it states, "Where have you not excelled yourself, O Great Spirit? In one moment we perceive your vastness. That's the macroscopic. In another, your microscopic hand in the what? In the smallest etheric wave." A wave in physics can be described as what? A disturbance that travels through a medium. Eth carries all corporeal substance in the universe, making it the medium for all things corporeal. So what microscopic corporeal substance causes waves in this medium? Let's look at the source from Britannica. French physicist Louis de Broglie proposed in 1924 that electrons and other discrete bits of matter, which until then have been conceived only as material particles, also what? Have wave properties such as wavelength and frequency. So how did Oahpe know about microscopic waves caused by microscopic corporeal substance, such as electrons in 1881? Where was this information 5,000 years ago in Kemetic? Book of Cosmogony 2:1 states, "There are two known things in the universe. There are two known things in the universe. There's ether, which is space, and corpore, which is physical matter. The former is the solvent of the latter." Now watch this. A solution is a homogeneous mixture consisting of a solute dissolved in a solvent. The solute is the substance that is being dissolved, while the solvent is the what? The dissolving medium. Corpore is the solute. The eth is the solvent. Etheric solution is corporeal substance dissolved in eth. Watch this. Book of Thor 4:14, it states, "The Great Spirit said, in the same way that the solid earth, the stars, and moon all float in the unseen firmament, so do atomic parts." Atomic parts. So do atomic parts to all things float in eth. As the earth is to the air and the ether above, so is an atom of corpore to the what? To the etheric solution. Pay attention. Pay attention. What Oahpe calls eth or etheric solution is compatible with what physicists today call luminiferous ether, the quantum field, space-time, or vacuum energy, with slight differences between them, but in common being a superfluid medium that pervades the entire universe, that somehow produces matter from energy and gives matter its mass. Oahpe, Book of Cosmogony 2, 3, and 4 states, "But nowhere in Etheria is there a solution of corpore able to do what? To put itself in motion, or to do what? To condense itself." So what force of motion brings matter into existence? What force of motion brings matter into existence? I'll let the modern scientific source speak before we break it down with Oahpe, Check it out. This vacuum energy interacts with matter and manifests itself as mass, which can be described as a what? As a flow and what? Vortex formation using the laws of hydrodynamics. The vortex model of elementary particles in conjunction with the laws of hydrodynamics does what source? Does what modern source? It provides an elegant explanation for the origin of mass and the relationship between mass and energy. With what source? With profound implications for the behavior of objects at high velocities and strong gravitational fields. Somebody got to shut that down. Thank you. With profound implications for the behavior of objects at high velocities and strong gravitational fields, the vacuum behaves as a what? As a compressible superfluid. Thus, elementary particles can be described as what? As vortices in a vacuum, huh? Let's rock. Remember, ether holds corporeal substance in solution. Oahpe, Book of Cosmogony and Prophecy, it states what? It states what? Oahpe, when a portion of this solution is given a rotary motion, it is called vortex. As a whirlpool cannot exist without water, or a whirlpool exists without air, so is a vortex. So a vortex cannot exist without the what? Without the etheric solution, baby. Come on. Let me show y'all a simple example of how vortex condenses matter to create mass. This is called hydrodynamics. Pay attention. Pay attention, As you can see here, hold up, lost my place, 1 second. As you can see here, I got corporeal substance in solution, I got water and I got herbs. This is corporeal substance in solution. When this is given a rotary motion, like what Oahpe said, when this is given a rotary motion, it's going to condense the herbs and it's going to form a form of mass. Watch this. Look at that. They came together to form a mass. To watch this. Give you another view real quick. I think I got that on here right there. Look how the vortex is driving all the herbs toward the center to form a bigger mass. That's called hydrodynamics. That's an example of vortex. Watch this. Oh, let me turn that off. My bad. Turn that off. All right, let me get my screen back up here so y'all get it now. Watch this. The water was the eth. The herbs are an example of the corporeal substance dissolved in the eth. The solution is given a rotary motion. The solution and rotary motion drives the substance toward the center, producing a what? A mass object. That's objective. That's experimentation. That's hydrodynamics. Let's keep going. Oahpe, Book of the Great Spirit 3:3. The whirlwind I made as a sign to man as the way of my created worlds. As you see the power of the whirlwind doing what? Gathering up the dust of the earth. The same way the vortex gathered up those herbs and made a mass, and driving it together. Know that likewise I bring together the Jaya and the Aji and the nebula in the firmament. And by the power of the whirlwind, that vortex in those nebulas, by the power of the whirlwind, I created the corporeal suns, moons, and stars. Where was this 5,000 years ago? It took a white dentist to tell you how you get your Ra, how you get your Gab, how you get your Newt. Game over tonight. And I commanded man to name the whirlwinds and the ethereal firmament, and he named them according to their shape, calling them vortices, vortex, and wark. Book of the Great Spirit 3, 6, and 7, it states, for each and every corporeal world. For each and every corporeal world, I created a vortex first. That's the first thing in the process of creation. A process requires steps. And by its rotation from the places in the firmament where it traveled, I called the vortex to do what? To conceive a corporeal world. What does it mean to conceive? Conceive is to cause, to begin, to originate. The root word of originate is origin. In the definition of cosmogony, you got it. Cosmogony is defined as the branch of science that deals with the what? The origin, of the universe, especially the solar system, So let's get with it. To make the sun, I created a great vortex. And within this vortex and subject to it, I made the vortices of many of the corporeal worlds. The sun vortex I caused to rotate, and I gave it power to carry other vortices within it. According to their density and position, they are thus carried forth around about the sun. Oahpe, Book of Cosmogony and Prophecy 133, it states the Earth's vortex is a sub-vortex. It's a sub-vortex of the sun. The Earth vortex is a sub-vortex existing within the sun's vortex. Book of the Great Spirit 3:4 states, first, as a vapor, a gas, the vortex does what? The vortex carries it forth. And as it condenses, as y'all seen in the hydrodynamic, the hydrodynamic experiment, as it condenses, its friction engenders heat. And it becomes molten, becoming as a globe of fire in heaven. Then it takes its place as a newly born world, and I set it in the orbit prepared for it. Right here, let's read the source, huh? Many scientists think the sun and the rest of the solar system form from a what? From a giant what? A giant rotating cloud of gas known as the solar nebula. That's from space.com. Let's keep going. Solar nebula, gaseous cloud from which in the so-called nebular hypothesis of the origin of the solar system, the sun and planets form by what? By condensation. By condensation. I showed y'all how vortex condenses and makes matter, huh? Precept of Oahpe Book of Cosmogony 123. In the beginning of the Earth's vortex, the current concentrated into its center. Certain substances whereby friction and the vortexia manifested heat. So that when the congregation of materials of the Earth's substance were together, they were as a molten mass of fire in heaven. And that's interesting because guess what? Because it wasn't until 1929 that the Danish seismologist NGL theorized that the Earth's core was molten, but was proven and confirmed in 1970. How did Oahpe get this in 1881? This wasn't in Kemet 5,000 years ago? Oahpe Book of the Great Spirit 4:16, it states, in the next age I bring it into Simu, for it is ripe for the bringing forth of living creatures, and I bestow the what? The vegetable and the animal kingdoms. But Simu will be explained in a later round, But let me drop a hint real quick about what it is. Russian astrophysicist Nikolai Kozrev was aware that in the mid-19th century, Louis Pasteur had discovered what? The forming block of life known as protoplasm was not inherently symmetrical. And that colonies of microbes grew in a what? In a spiral. There we go again. In a spiral or Fibonacci spiral. And that this geometric figure was present in nature on plants, flowers, insects, animals, galaxies. Kozrev, through his experiments, also what? Demonstrated the presence of ether. Oahpe Book of the Great Spirit 3:4 states, wider than to the moons of a planet, I have created the vortices, and they carry the moons also, Meaning the moon is in the atmosphere of the earth, being bound by the earth's vortex. You see this headline in this article here from space.com? It says, surprise, Earth's atmosphere extends far beyond the moon. It says tiny wisps of Earth air stretch way out into deep space, far beyond the moon's orbit, a new study suggests. It says the moon flies through Earth's atmosphere. Study lead author Igor of Russia's Space Research Institute, has said in the statement. So look, outer space is what? Space immediately outside Earth's atmosphere. That means the moon is in orbit, subjected to the vortexian atmosphere of the Earth, not out of space. Not out of space. So how did Oahpe get this knowledge in 1881? Where was that knowledge at in Kemet 5,000 years ago, Again, Oahpe Book of Cosmogony and Prophecy. The Earth's vortex is a subvortex existing within the sun's vortex. Mercury, Venus, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, and so on are all corporeal worlds. And each and all of them are what? Within vortices. Being subvortices also, and the combination of these subvortices within and including the sun's vortex is known by the names Great Serpent or Solar Phalanx. Why is that? Because a solar phalanx is an organized body of planets carried about by the vortex of the sun. What is a solar serpent? Why is it called a solar serpent? Because the sun's galactic motion resembles that of a snake as it moves around about the galaxies. Here we go with the source. It's perhaps also worth noting that the sun doesn't appear to trace a flat circle in one plane only. As it moves around the galaxy, the sun actually appears to bob up and down through the disk like a wave, What was this at 5,000 years ago? Huh? The moon is a subvortex of the earth. The earth is a subvortex of the sun. That makes the sun and the stars and the other stars subvortexes of the galactic vortex, huh? Even the hurricane is a local example of a vortex creating subvortices on the earth. Watch this. Hurricanes and tropical storms can produce tornadoes. Let me say that again, huh? Hurricanes and tropical storms can produce tornadoes. These tornadoes most often occur in thunderstorms embedded in rain bands well away from the center of the hurricane. However, they can also occur near the eye wall, huh? So the same way the vortex of a hurricane produces subvortices that generate tornadoes is the same way the galactic vortices generate subvortices that condense stars that produce subvortices that condense planets. This is how all galaxies, planets, suns, moons, and stars originated in the universe. And vortex is the mechanism to how all matter gets its mass being condensed from the etheric solution. From fundamental particle waves on up to more complex forms of matter.
3 minutes.
And if you don't have the mechanism that turns energy into matter in your creation story, in your creation Kemetic text, then you don't have cosmogony. You don't have cosmogony. Watch this. For each and every corporeal world, I create a vortex first. And by its rotation and from the places in the firmament where it traveled, I cause the vortex to conceive a corporeal world. Check it out. Conceive is to become pregnant with young. So that will make us worlds too. Watch this. A Oahpe book of knowledge. You are a type of world, a corporean. Huh? Meaning men and women also generate by the power of vortex. Watch this. Look, vortex in mortal conception. Look at this headline. It says sperm don't slither. They swim in a corkscrew motion. Huh? There's vortex on every level. Right here, it says the sperm body spins at the same rate that the tail rotates around the swimming direction. Sperm drills into the fluid like a spinning top by rotating around itself while its tilted axis rotates around the center. This is known in physics as precession, but watch this. This is known in physics as precession, much like the precession of the equinoxes in our own planet. Huh? Look how similar it is. Look how similar it is in Oahpe. Oahpe book of Cosmogony states this: though the general form of a vortex as already stated in its beginning is long, then funnel shaped like a whirlwind. Its ultimate is toward globular form, and though the current of vortex is spiral at first, yet its currents ultimate toward less spirality. If one could imagine a very long serpent like a sperm cell in spiral form, constantly turning on its head at one pole and its tail at the other, and continuously crawling upon its own spirality, such a view would somewhat illustrate the currents of vortex, huh? What about DNA? What about the double helix? That's twisted and spiral too, huh? On April 25th, 1953, when Francis Clark and James Watson published their famous article that showed the shape of a DNA is a double helix, huh? Twisted like a vortex. What was this in Kemetic 5,000 years ago? Huh? Look right here. Look right here. That's the first stage of vortex in Oahpe. Here's a DNA helix right there, huh? The head of the sperm contains the DNA, which when combined with the egg's DNA will create a new individual, huh? We got vortex in the DNA. We got vortex in the sperm cell. As above, so below. Look at the resemblance, huh? The spiral DNA, the vortex drilling motion of the sperm cell and the egg coalescence, the baby in the womb of water, a world within the world, much like how the earth is in a womb of atmosphere. Look at the spiral pattern of the embryo.
All right, time.
Much love.
Let go to work, baby.
Yes,
we ready?
Yeah.
ETE Emetep Seni Senet Ankwas Tejed Anku Jaseneb. Like I said tonight, we're not going to allow them to preach their ways out of this. You either have it in your text or you're just quoting the scientists. We have it in our text as well as quote the scientists. Some of that stuff they didn't have in their text. What you should know, the beginnings of the universe understood through the natural rule, Text and constellation reminders. Let it begin. Cosmogony and cosmology. What is it? Ancient Egyptian text lining up with the scientific theories, the foundations of science. I'm Seba Asam Ka giving you this. This is my certificate from the Big Bang to dark energy theory. So I'll be matching my theory with the Big Bang as we go forth. And yes, I'm certified with the math through the University of Tokyo. Cosmogony, the study of the origin of the universe. Cosmogony refers to the study of the origin of the universe and its characteristic features. It is related to the creation or origin of the world or universe. The term is derived from the Greek word cosmos, referring to the order of the universe, and genesis, meaning the process of coming into being or substantial change, not DNA strands. Cosmology, plural, a branch of metaphysics that deals with the nature of the universe, a theory or doctrine describing the natural order of the universe. This is what we'll be doing tonight. We'll be dealing with the doctrine that it's described it originally and science took off with. What am I? Ami Winweti or Ami Unuti. I'm an hour watcher, an astronomer, and you can see the different texts for it. We call the Unet or the Winwet an hour. Let's go. In the beginning, everything is energy. There is no matter. So anyone who starts their cosmogony with matter is incorrect. It's too hot for matter. At the time of the Big Bang, the universe was in a hot, dense plasma state and was about 1,000,000 times smaller than it is today. The theoretical temperature at time zero is determined by extrapolating the ideal gas law. And absolute zero is taken as 273.15 degrees Celsius. The temperature of the universe at the time zero was about 9 Kelvin, negative 264 Celsius, which is still warmer than today's prevailing temperature of less than 3 Kelvin, negative 270 Celsius. As the universe expands, it cools, to keep it simple. The Big Bang Theory posits that the entire universe was once compressed into an infinitely tiny point called a singularity. This singularity had infinite density and intense heat, according to the theory. The universe emerged from the singularity about 13.8 billion years ago, and we put it even further back than that. Here is the scientific breakdown of the universe. You can see R equals 0, which the 0 and the R equal the singularity. These are also determined as black holes. This is a white hole. The singularity is positive as opposed to negative generally. And these are the constructs that are created once the universe cools off from this hot state. What we call the singularity is the older company of the gods, here referred to have been described as personifications, aspects, phrases, properties of primeval matter. And they're called Neter, Neteri, Keperchesef, and Paut, God, Neteri, self-produced, and the primeval matter. Notice this is the symbol for the Paut, the primeval matter in the beginning. Looks just like that singularity up here, doesn't it? Yeah, we'll get to that in a moment. The Paut, what is it? Just so you guys know at home. The stuff of the 9 gods, the substance or matter out of which the 9 gods were made. The word Paut means doughy, like a cake, which it is when it's in its beginning states of the universe. It's extremely hot. Bread with formed parts of the offerings made to the dead. But similarly, Paut is the name given to the plastic substance out of which the earth and the gods were formed. And later, when applied to divine beings or things, it means the aggregation or entirety of such beings or things. Thus, in the papyrus of Ani, the god Tatanin is declared to be one, the maker of mankind and of the material of the gods of the south, east, north, and west. But there was a primeval matter out of which heaven was made, and also a primeval matter out of which the earth was made. And hence, Kapara, the great creator of all things, is said in chapter 17, line 116 of the book of Coming Forth by Day. It says, poses a body, which is formed of both classes of matter, the Paut. And again, in chapter 85, the deceased, wishing to identify himself with this divine substance, says, I am the eldest son of the divine Pauti, that is to say, the soul of the souls of the gods of everlasting, and my body is everlasting, and my creations are eternal, and I am the Lord of years and the Prince of everlastingness. In the words which are put into the mouth of Keperah, who is made to describe his creation of the world, the God says, I produce myself from the primeval matter which I made. And then extending that, it says, this is only the meaning that which can be extracted from the Egyptian words. In the context which the reader will find given in the section on creation proves that it is the correct one. The word primeval, which is added in brackets, is suggested by the text wherein Pauti is accompanied by tep, first, the first matter, in point of time compared to Pauti, first matter. That is to say, the earliest matter which was created, and the matter which existed before anything else. From the above facts, it is clear. Let's go further. Live Science says this about the Big Bang. According to the standard Big Bang model, the universe was born during a period of inflation that began about 13.8 billion years ago. Like a rapidly expanding balloon, it swelled from a size smaller than an electron to nearly its current size within a tiny fraction of a second. Initially, the universe was permeated only by energy. Some of this energy congealed into particles, which assembled into light, atoms, like hydrogen and helium. These atoms clumped first into galaxies, then stars, inside whose fiery furnaces all the other elements were forged. Let's look at these other elements. We have Nu and Nut, Hehu and Hehuet, Kekui and Kekuet, Ker and Kerhet, also known as Amun and Amunet. Karen Kerhat. Let's go further and see what's going on. The character of the first pair of gods can be readily determined by the hieroglyphics which form their names. These up here, this Nu and this heaven right here, and the waters, as our brother kept mentioning, Thus the name Nu is expressed by 3 vases of water which indicate the sound and the outstretched heaven, and the determinative for water and the sign for God, all of which show that this deity was the god of watery mass of the sky. From various passages founding the religious, mythological, and funeral texts of all periods, it is abundantly clear that in primeval times, at least the Egyptians believed in the existence of a deep and boundless watery mass out of which had come into being the heavens and the earth and everything that is in them. The germs of all and every kind of life were in this watery mass, and they were supposed to have been there from the beginning. The name of this god has been compared with the Coptic word, the last form of Egyptian, with abyss and deep. According to Signor Lanzone, they are personifications of male and female elements of fire when it comes to our second pair of gods, Hehu and Hehuet. They are the fire, that is the heat. And from the ancient pictures of them, we see that the Egyptian artists regarded from their different points of view. Thus, in one group of the 8 primeval gods, Hehu is represented in one of the forms of Nu, frog-headed, already described, and Hehut in the form of Nut. And in another group, Hehu has the head of a serpent, and Hehuet that of a cat. According to the late Dr. Bruggish, the name He is connected with the word which indicates an undefined and unlimited number, He. When applied to time, the idea suggests it is millions of years, infinity, timelessness. He asked us where this was at. We have it. Let's see it in his text. Also known as Amun and Amunet, here's Ker and Kerhet. Let's read about them and let's get to the verse, which shows some of these things. Homage to thee, O Amun-Ra, who do rest upon Ma'at. As you pass over the heavens, every face see you. You do wax great as your majesty do advance, and your rays shine upon all faces. That's Amun-Ra is the form of the sun. You are unknown, and no tongue have power to declare your similitude. Only yourself can do this. Let's see when they mix together with Hehu and Hehuet, Amun and Amunet. It says, millions of years have gone over the world, and I cannot tell the number of those through which thou hast passed. That means he's been passing for a long time. Your heart have decreed a day of happiness in thy name of traveler. It's traveling. It's the great expansion, as they discussed earlier in science. You do pass over, travel through untold spaces, requiring millions and hundreds of thousands of years to pass over through them in peace. And you steer the way across the watery abyss to the place which you love. This you do in one little moment of time. It happened quick, like the great expansion. And then you do sink down and do make an end of the hours. There's only time when you have matter, because energy is timeless. And so they're showing that the universe went from small to huge as the great traveler. And then as it cooled off, we start to count time. We'll see this in the model later on in this discussion. Let's read some more text. The Pa'ut, primeval, which gave birth to the two companies of gods, came into being. God, everything came into this with the Pa'ut through him. One alone, he made what exists. When the earth began in primeval time, hidden of births, manifold of forms, not is known his growth. And we don't know the size of the universe, do we? Hello. Let's talk about my teacher, award-winning scientist Hitoshi Moriyama. He said, if you take a ball and throw it up in the sky, when it starts to come down, that's when you have, when you take the ball and throw it into the sky, that's the beginning of the Big Bang. And you're watching the universe expand until it reaches its zenith. When it reaches its height, then the universe is expanded, and in those areas it cools off, and we can tell because the ball starts to come back down, which leads us to another theory of the Big Crunch. So according to Einstein, it's actually pretty simple. It's just like you keep a ball in your hand. You stand on the surface of the earth and throw it upwards. An initial thrust is the Big Bang. The way the ball keeps going up is the expansion of the universe. They follow exactly the same equation, it turns out. They have the same mathematical equation. And then, as you can imagine, if I throw a ball myself, then I can throw it very much at a high speed. So it eventually go up, slow down, and stop, and come back down. Waves and light, the reason for expansion. Sonoluminous is the emission of light from imploding bubbles in a liquid. When excited by sound, it occurs when a sound wave of sufficient intensity induces a gaseous cavity with the liquid to collapse quickly, emitting a burst of light. In other words, a gravity wave forms the burst of light. Many scientists believe a first order phase transition occurred at the very beginning of time, triggering the launch of gravitational waves or ripples in space-time. Let's go further. Papyrus Laden 350 describes it perfectly. It said, light was his coming into existence on the first occasion, with all that exists in stillness for awe of him. How did it happen? We needed some sound, right, in order to make the light, because light doesn't make sound. He honked by voice as the great honker. Coming into a land that he created for himself while he was alone, he began speaking in the midst of silence, opening every eye and causing them to look. He began crying out while the world was in stillness. His yell circulated while he had no second, so that he might give birth to what is and cause them to live and cause every man to know the way to walk. We have the text. Gravity appears to be the embrace or hand of a Asar. This is where that $5,000 book comes into play. Text F, plate 44. He is purified in the arms of his father, Osiris. His father lives, and he is glorious when he has put himself under him. He's talking about the stars and Heru rising. He is purified in the arms of his father, Osiris. He is purified in the hand of his father, Osiris. That is to say, he is accustomed to do it. It is the water from which he rises. They're talking about the sun rising on the watery mass called the noon. He lives. He is glorious when his father has put himself under him. He lives. He is beautiful in his rising from it. That is to say, the water. In that figure, noon uplifts the bark of the morning sun, shown as the beetle with its ball, the sun being received by Nut, who in turn is supported by Osiris, enclosing the Dua. In our text, the water from which the sun rises is specifically referred to as the hand of Osiris, which both purifies the sun and supports it in its rising. You ain't know that, though. The texts which are before her thigh, here go her thigh right here. Y'all didn't know? Here go Keppara right here. There go the rising right there. Let's get to the text, though. It is from the Dua that the majesty of this God goes forth in the Mesket region, that these stars go forth with him. It is from the Dua that the God rises, these stars rising with him in the Mesket region. It is the door of the Duat. You said something about a nebula. We're going to talk about that in a second. He was glorious in the arms of his father Asar and Tawir. He was beautiful in the hand of his father Osiris in the Dua. That is to say, it was in the underworld that he was. That is the water from which Ra rises. They're talking about gravity and the sun. Let's go further, though. This is how it looks. This is the text when they break it down. But you ain't know that. Here, you would have the Pa'ut beginning. Here, you would have that gravity wave take place. And look at Hehu and Hehuet. Look at time going all the way out here. Here you got the dark ages because Nu and now Unet are now performing. Hehu and Hehuet are doing their thing. Amun and Amunet were when they were hidden. Now we can see these things. Here it is right here. And it matches up with our solar system with no trouble at all. Let's go further. How stars are born. Stars are born from huge clouds of dust and gas that collapse under gravity. As the cloud shrinks, it spins faster and forms a disk with a hot center called the protostar. The protostar grows by accreting more gas and dust until it reaches a high enough temperature to ignite nuclear fusion. Fusion converts hydrogen into helium and releases energy that balances the gravity and makes the star stable. Where are stars formed? A nebula. Are often star-forming regions, right? The Eagle Nebula in these regions over here. Material clumps, all that good stuff, right? Here go Orion right here. The ancestors not only pointed the pyramid over here for you to become a what? A Yadim was sick. For you to become a what? An everlasting star, an everlasting soul, right over here, right under Asar. Because the Dua is here, and they could tell from the redness of this nebula. Couldn't they? Over by M42 and all that. You didn't know that though, huh? Let's see what it says, man. Cenotaph Seti. It says, when the incarnation of this God enters, is at her first hour of evening, becoming effective again in the embrace of his father Asar, and becoming purified therein. Then he is developed into the great God, the winged disc. We know when they talk about the winged disc, they talking about the sun. When this God sails to the limits of the basin of the sky, she causes him to enter again into night, into the middle of the night. And he sails in the dust, these stars are behind him. When the incarnation of this God enters her mouth inside the Dua, it stays open after he sails inside her, so that these sailing stars may enter after him and come forth after him. They're showing you that star nursery right there, producing stars coming out of the Dua. Here it is for more. The redness of afterbirth as he becomes pure in the embrace of his father Asar. Why? Because we know gravity stabilizes a star. They knew it too. Then his father lives as he becomes effective again through him, as he opens in his splitting and swims in his redness. The incarnation of the God comes forth from her rear. Then he is on course toward the world, apparent and born. Then he produces himself above. Then he parts the thighs of his mother Nu. Then he goes away to the sky. When the incarnation of this God comes forth from the Dua, these stars come forth after him at the birthplace. Then he is reared in the birthplace. Then he becomes effective again through his father Asar in the Abdian Nome on the first occasion of his primeval state. You ain't know that? That's where the nebula is. They knew exactly where it was. But here y'all go in the 1900s, and you didn't take Einstein's model. You took Bohr's model of the atom, didn't you? So your model's static. Negatively charged electrons orbit the positively charged nucleus in circular orbits, forming electron shells. Electrons do not radiate. If they don't radiate, no vertices take place, do they? It's a static model. Here's the problem with your model and why you took the Bohr model. I have no clue. You were in the 1900s. You were supposed to know better. We didn't know we was in 8000 BC. While the Bohr model surpassed earlier models and described absorption and emission spectra, it had some issues. The model couldn't predict spectra of large atoms. It doesn't explain the Zeeman effect. It doesn't predict relative intensities of spectral lines. The model violates Heisenberg's uncertainty principle because it defines both the radius and orbit of electrons. You messed it all up. It incorrectly calculates ground state angular momentum according to the Bohr model. And the Bohr model does not explain fine and hyperfine structure of spectral lines. You took the wrong model. And over here, your sun is hollow. Why is your sun hollow? Let the sign of corporeal worlds be as the signs of the etherian worlds. But your sun is hollow. Look, here go your math right here. This is in Zerbe's book, who you wrote the letter to. How a hollow sun is formed of many bodies of varying sizes. What are you doing, Oahpe? You messed that all up, brother. So
Time.
Share my screen, man. Hey, y'all, I'm so sorry y'all had to sit through that. Asar, you about to put us to sleep with all that madness.
All right.
Share my screen.
All right. Hold on.
Boy, you know good and well ain't no Big Bang coming out no ancient.
Time start.
Asar. You say time started, sa.neter?
Time start when you speak. It ain't start yet, but let's go.
All right, let's rock. Big Bang can't be used as proof for an article of faith, Asar. Between religion and science, George Lemaitre and Pope Pius XII of the Big Bang Theory, Alexander Van Bizen. Look at this right here. It says George Lemaitre was a Belgian priest and a brilliant physicist who in 1931, remember the data saw, developed the innovative hypothesis that the universe once must have had a beginning and that it has expanded from a single infinitesimal small point, which he called the primeval atom. Later on, this would become known as the what? Asar? The Big Bang Theory in 1913. Look at this. In 1951, Pope Pius XII held a speech in which he saw in Lemaitre's theory a scientific confirmation of what, Asar? The Christian doctrine of creation. Yeah. You up boo-boo creek without a paddle, Jack. What you doing? Lemaitre opposed this official statement of the Pope. Look at this. Lemaitre says that the Big Bang is a cosmological theory, Jabari. This is gas money, Ray. A cosmological theory, which is always hypothetical and provisional, can never be used as a proof nor as a refutation of an article of faith. He defended the theological position that it would be wrong to reduce God, listen up, Asar, to reduce your deities, Asar, Jabari, to a scientific hypothesis. Look at this. If the originator of what would later be called the Big Bang Theory in the 1930s, y'all, said that a cosmological theory, which is always hypothetical and provisional, can never be used as a proof nor as a refutation of an article of faith, this would also apply to Kemetic. And it can't be used, Asar, polar tink, and it can't be used to prove the Kemetic creation story. Bag drop. Let's keep rolling, though. Let's keep rolling. Creative Gang TV presents what? The science of timekeeping. Source. What is time? Time is the measured or measurable period during which an action, process, or condition exists or continues. Time is the duration. Time is a non-spatial continuum that is measured in terms of events which succeed one another, from past through present to future, Asar. Time is an historical period. Time is an age, Jabari. Source. What is historicity? Historicity is the quality of being a real and important part of history and not a myth or a legend. Because Jabari teaches that the deities of mythos. Well, if your deities of mythos, you can't get on here and talk about cosmogony, creation, or time. And by the way, if y'all didn't know, that's the topic of the debate. The topic of the debate is the science of cosmogony, creation, and time. Oahpe versus all the ancient Kemetic literature. Bring it all. Primary source. Oahpe is a primary. We have the only primary here. It is a primary for the information it contains. Oahpe, the same principles apply to all the stars, all the suns, all the planets and moons, but different in manifestation on account of size, motion, density, and relative place. Source. What is a principle? Principle is a comprehensive and fundamental law, doctrine or assumption, a rule or code of conduct. According to Oahpe, the same principles or the same comprehensive and fundamental laws apply to all stars, suns, planets, and moons. Let that marinate a little taste. If this is true, the same would apply to a divine science of timekeeping. Primary source, Oahpe, and he placed in the line of the orbit a distance of 3,000 years, Etherian lights. This is the travel of it all. Between each line of light is 3,000 years. The present time is up here at the 25th arc cycle. You're learning how to tell time now, Jabari. These should be called my lesser cycles because they are the times of the tables of prophecy, which I give to my servants. Primary source, Oahpe. The mathematicians foretold the great cities and nations that would rise up, how this one and that one would move to battle, how the great cities would fall in ruins and be covered up by falling nebula. No guesswork, Asar. Nebula, exactly. Look at this. And by denuding mountains, mudslides, washing down upon them, so that even the memory of them would be lost. What is a mathematician, Brother Reggie? A mathematician is someone who uses an extensive knowledge of mathematics in their work, typically to solve mathematical problems. Mathematicians are concerned with numbers, data, quantity, structure, space, models, and change. In essence, a mathematician is a prophet. Didn't know that, did you, or so? In order to properly compute time, there are numbers and cycles that the student must become acquainted with. Source, cosmic times, and cycles. The numbers are 11, 33, 66, 99, or 100, 200, 400, and 3,000. Primary source, Oahpe, headshot. Tay said, the times you bestow should be my signpost. Is this not the most exalted science under the sun, Jabari? Is this not the most exalted science under the sun? For since the Creator has made years, has he not also made cycles? And will the cycles not comport or agree with the rules of its members? Then Tay classified cycles at 3,000 years, and the wave of the solar system or the great serpent at 200 years and 400 years. You want to see the visuals? You want to learn how to tell time? Your ancient timepiece, an arc cycle made up of 7.5 times, 3,000 years. And then what he do? He subdivided these again and found that every 33rd year was alike on Earth. You want to know about the secret of the number 33? Without having to become a Freemason? How about these are units of time? Look at this. Tay subdivided the 33rd year into 11. And he found the variation to be 1 in 99 years. Yeah, 33 divided by 3 is 11. 11 times 3 is 33. Look at this. If therefore the past history of the Earth's people for 3,000 years were written truthfully, it would disclose the roadways of one cycle of time. And this must be repeated, Jabari. And this must be repeated, Asar, with each 33rd cycle or year, with one deviation in 99 cycles a year. Primary source, Oahpe. Oh, if only the prophets would apply my lessons of the past in order to foretell the future. Behold, sa.neter, listen to this. Behold, there is no mystery in heaven and earth. They march right on. Cycle follows cycle. Summer follows winter. Primary source, Oahpe. The prophets of old divided times into cycles of 3,000 years. Such then is the general character and behavior of man during an arc cycle. And he rises and falls in all these particulars as regularly as the tides of the ocean. Look at this behavior of an arc cycle, 3,000 years, boy. We got it laid out. They can't put it on a timeline like this because all the deities are what? Cosmological, not cosmological, mythological, according to Jabari. Look at this. Remember, these important numbers in lesser cycles repeat themselves: 11, 33, 66, 99, 100, 200, 400, and 3,000. You see, it hit different when you have the algorithm for time. Ask yourself, why hasn't Kemetic taught this ancient science of timekeeping? Let me show the Nile Valley how to stand on business. Some key cosmic and world events that have repeated on the Odic rate of 11 years. Source, written this year, June 14th, 2024. What is it saying? It says right here. It says right here. The sun's magnetic field is about to flip. Here's what to expect. This phenomenon happens roughly every, 11 years and marks an important stage in the solar cycle. The last time the sun's magnetic field flipped was toward the end of when? 2013. Exactly 11 years ago. That's a headshot. How about we take a look at some of the most famous influential outbreaks of the last century? How about the Spanish flu of 1918 or the parrot fever of 1929? Spot on at 11 years. What about the Asian flu pandemic of 1957 or the Hong Kong flu pandemic of 1968? Yeah, 11 years, Jabari. How about the H1N1 swine flu pandemic of 09 or the COVID-19 pandemic of 2020? Spot on again. 11 years. You ever heard of the proverbial phrase history/time repeats itself? You're now learning the how and the when of this wise saying. Take notes. This ain't lick your fingers scholarship. Some key cosmic and world events that are repeated every 33 years. Saturn and Pluto planetary conjunction cycle of 33 years. Source. The Saturn-Pluto conjunction influence can often bring about the decrystallization and structures of government, statehood, laws, customs, This cycle occurs 3 times in every century. No, the third of a century is what? 33 years. The average Saturn-Pluto conjunction cycle lasts about when? 33 years. The Saturn-Pluto conjunction of 1914 and its direct effect on World War I source. In August 1914, when the First World War began, Pluto and Saturn were in their new phase, conjunct at around 0° Cancer. World War I destroyed old Europe, destroyed dynasty and class structures and models of government that had lasted for centuries. 1914 plus 33 years get you 1947 source. In 1947, the conjunction saw the reshaping of many parts of the world, a new world order. 1947 also saw the first year of a Cold War between the Soviet Union and the U.S., while the Roswell incident broke other extraterrestrial boundaries. Some key and cosmic world events that have repeated on a rate of what? Every 99 to 100 years. The War of 1812, 1812 to 1815, or the World War I, 1914 to 1918, or the rise of ISIS, Islamic State of Iraq and Syria, 2014 to 2015. What are the commissions hiding? Why won't they openly show us in their ancient literature the ancient science of timekeeping? Why won't they reveal the secrets about the numbers 11, 33, 66, 99, 100, 200, 400, and 3,000? I mean, the Nile Valley does know that these units are cycles and years of time that consistently repeat as often as spring follows winter, correct? Or could it be the fact that the oldest Commission calendar, trip off this, y'all, the oldest Commission calendar, Jabari, as a start date of guess when, sa.neter? 4241 BC. That's not even 7,000 years ago. Source, ancient Kemetic.com. The ancient Egyptian calendar. The ancient Egyptian calendar, known as the oldest in the world, trip off this, was meticulously calculated by ancient Egyptians in what year? In the year 4241 BC. Look at the ancient Egyptian calendar. The funny thing is, trip off this, y'all, there was no Kemet in 4241 BCE. It wouldn't come on the scene until Norma circa 3050 BCE. Source, look at Norma about to chop the head off of his African brother's shoulders. Circa 3050 BCE, hashtag no my eye. Since we're talking about time, it's only natural that we discuss historicity. Huh? How you gonna talk time and you don't bring up history, right? Historicity, source. Historicity is the quality of being a real and important part of history and not a myth or a legend. Wait a whole 10 minute, Jabari. Wait a whole 10 minute. Well, if historicity is about being a real and important part of history and not a myth or a legend, then by definition, Team Jabari or Team Kemet can't talk about time or historicity or cosmogony or creation. Because according to Jabari, the Commission deities are mythological. Sit down somewhere. Primary source, Oahpe, because they are the times of the tables of prophecy, which I give to my servants. Source, the ancient petroglyphic panic system of writing dated circa 15,000 years ago. Are petroglyphs historical, Jabari? Are petroglyphs historical assault? What is a petroglyph source? A petroglyph is an image created by removing part of a rock surface by incising, picking, carving, or abrading as a form of rock art. What are hieroglyphs, Jabari? Hieroglyphs, meaning sacred carving, is a Greek translation of the Egyptian phrase, the God's word. Source, petroglyphs predate hieroglyphs. Petroglyphs in Western Nevada have been identified as the oldest of their kind in North America. Researchers at the University of Colorado Boulder conducted a study that dates the rock carvings to between 10,500 to 14,800 years ago. Oh, wait. Look at this right here. Let's keep moving. Source, petroglyph inscribed rocks, photograph courtesy of Larry Benson, University of Colorado. Look what the chemical testing. Chemical testings of samples from the site revealed that such a dry period occurred between 14,800 and 13,200 years ago. Source, look at this. Look at the petroglyphs 12,000 years ago in India on the left versus 4,000 years ago in Egypt. The knowledge came from the east and to the west. Egypt didn't have it first. What does Oahpe have to say about this ancient form of writing? Does it agree with the historical time period? Are petroglyphs historical, Jabari? Oahpe, from the Ark of Mos to the Ark of Day in the Etherian heavens. and of 3,200 years. When was the arc cycle of Moss, according to the timetables of prophecy? Remember, Oahpe gives the time period at 13,553 BC to 10,353. I'm telling time tonight. No guesswork, no lick your finger, right to it. Primary source, Oahpe. God foresaw that the knowledge of one generation could be handed down to the next by altars and temples, by idols and images, and by painted signs and engraved words. So by symbols, God conveyed the living truth. And these were the first writings since the flood. A picture of a man was a man, a picture of a tree was a tree, a picture of a bird was a bird, and so on. Everything represented by its own name and image. Look at this. These are petroglyphs before the hieroglyphs. Primary source, Oahpe. Then God said, when you have made the picture of a spirit, behold, it is a spirit. And when you desire to show which way a man goes, you shall add to the graven image the likeness of a spirit. And the way it points shall show the way man goes. Thus man made a written language in every region of the earth. Look at that. Look at the spirits pointing left. Man is traveling left. Teach you how to read the glyphs. Here's a historical nugget for the haters, jaw jackers, and naysayers. The ability to date these glyphs at 15,000 years ago wasn't available until the 1940s. Oahpe was written in 1881, predating this method of science by 60 years. Once again, Oahpe proved itself to be the primary when it comes to the information it contains. Side note, the oldest petroglyphs are dated circa 13,000 BCE, predate ancient Kemetic by 10,000 years. That's a headshot. What about the Younger Dryas? You do know about the Younger Dryas, right? The historical ice age that happened suddenly, 10,900 BCE. Or ice age is historical, Jabari. We got the visuals for you. The arc cycles of 3,000 years. This is when the Younger Dryas went down, circa 10,900 BC. Source, the Younger Dryas period was a time of sudden and rapid cooling. It was an ice age. The Younger Dryas period was a climate anomaly, a period of aggressive global cooling that emerged roughly 12,900 years ago, or 10,900 BC. Remember the date. This is an historical event that changed the climate and landscape of planet Earth, whose impact is still felt today. Predating ancient Kemet, not by 8 centuries, but by 8 millenniums or so. That's a headshot. What does Oahpe reveal about the Earth and her atmosphere during this exact same time period? Primary source. I have prepared places of darkness in the ethereal heavens. In the
3 minutes.
And places of light. And my corporeal worlds must travel through them. For so I created them. The earth travels through pockets of light and darkness. You're learning tonight. Now the earth passes into deep darkness, for I fructify the races of men as they absorb from the agi of my places. Primary source. What is agi? Agi is semi-dark asar, a dense region in ethereal, which sometimes descends to the earth. Look at this. Thus the earth went into great darkness during the last 600 years of the cycle of Thor. When the earth traveled through this pocket of darkness in space, semi-dark nebulous material called agi, where it's rained down upon the earth for 600 years or so, triggering what scientists coined the Younger Dryas, or an ice age that happened suddenly. This event is still considered a mystery as to its origin. To find out the exact year this event happened, add 600 years to the years 10,353 BCE for a startling date of 10,953 BCE. Hold on now. Wait a minute, Jabari. Science has dated this event to when? 10,900 BC. Now, how could Oahpe know this information in 1881? The Younger Dryas cold event wasn't discovered in Denmark by Hartz and Mithers until 1904. And the term was coined by Hartz in 1912. Once again, Oahpe beats out modern science by 23 years, proving itself to be a primary source. Not only does Oahpe explain the mystery of the Younger Dryas ice age, it gives the exact same time period. Side note for all the mental midgets who fancy themselves as scholars, laughing about the name Thor. Check the dates, genius. 13,553 BCE to 10,353 BCE is 15,000 to 12,000 years ago. The Thor of Norse mythology is from the 8th century CE, only 1,300 years ago. Try again, Asar. Not even the same one. And the nerve of you mealy-mouthed misfits to say anything about a name named Thor with a goddess named Hathor. Or what about the cycle of Osir, 10,353 BC to 7,053 BC? That right there proves this is not the Osiris of Egypt. Osir in Oahpe, the book of Osiris, is not, I repeat, is not the Osiris of Egypt. This is what he taught, how to tell time, the 400 years of the ancients. The base of prophecy, 33 years. This is what Osir taught 12,000 years ago. The arc cycles of 3,000 years. And this is when the first temples of observation to study the stars were built. Gobekli Tepe, 12,000 to 9,000 years ago. You see? Oahpe claimed that the very first oldest astrological...
Time!
Yeah, boy. Yeah, boy. It's heating up in here, boy. Oh, wait.
All right.
Oh, wait.
All right. Go on mute. Nepal, are you ready?
Great.
All right. There you go. Time start when you're ready.
Okay, let's get back to the top. Can I start over?
Yes, yes.
Okay, great. So back to the slave master who wrote this book. Well, his family. John Newborough's uncle was a slave master who not only owned slaves, but he impregnated slaves and had children with slaves. It is actually Elizabeth P. Pulsley Newborough's brother. So let me get to this part that's the most interesting. Admitted to the bar, this is about his uncle who's a slave owner. And don't forget that he went and worked with one of his uncles in an insane asylum. So it wasn't like he was estranged from them. They were a close family. Pulsley began his legal career. We really don't care about that. But we want to know about is this part. He farmed and practiced law, and he owned a slave in 1840 census, a black woman, and a 3-year-old mulatto boy. That was his son. In the 1850 census, this is all available. The sources are listed right here at the bottom. And he also had a 40-year-old black woman who had a 17 and a 4-year-old, two boys, a 17 and a 4-year-old mulatto set of children. And he had an 8-year-old black boy and a 6-year-old black girl in 1860. Now I'm going to stop sharing that. Let me move on. I just want to get that out the way that we're talking about a slave owner, a family that owned slaves, and this man who was produced from that, who didn't have any problem with it. There's information saying that he took issue with abolitionists. He's a slave master. But let's get to his ridiculous science that he pretended that some spirits gave to him. John B. Newborough's God versus actual basic science. This information that I'm about to read is actually from the book of Cosmogony in the Oahpe Bible. In the Oahpe Bible, John Newborough says Jehovah and his angels say that the sun does not give off heat. If you don't believe me, I'll go from my PowerPoint sa.neter. Just let me stop sharing that real quick. Let me get to the actual article. Yeah, you don't have to even stop my time because this is going to be real quick. Obviously, you don't stop time anymore. I want you to read it yourselves. You know what I'm saying? So you won't be like, let these guys make you think that I'm making this up about him. Righty, where is it? I just had it. Okay. Okay, well, that's unfortunate. Maybe later, I'll just read this right now. I'm citing it, so I can't find the actual book, but they know it. So let me tell you where it's located in the book of Cosmogony, 38/1.37 to 42 is where it says the sun does not give off heat in the book of Cosmogony. It also says that the sun is comparable to a diamond, but it is not as valuable as a diamond. That's also in the book of Cosmogony, same chapter. I guess these are verses, verse 1.40. It also says in the book of Cosmogony that the sun is 4.5 million miles in diameter. If these are heavenly beings, why don't they know the actual measurements of the sun, or at least a ballpark? Because the sun is not 4.5 million miles in diameter. It's not. Okay, the sun cannot even burn more than 80,000 years, is said in the book of Cosmogony. The sun has been burning for 4.5 billion years, and it has about 5 billion more years to burn for us on the earth, and then it's going to burn out in 10 billion years. But these angels and their God supposedly told them there's only 80,000 years left. That's in the book of Cosmogony. You see, I'm citing it. The sun is easily replaceable. Yep, that's said in the book of Cosmogony, that if the sun burns out, no problem. The vortexia is just going to make a new one like that. The sun has spent about 100,000 years. These are the facts on the right. I'm going to read the comparison. The sun has spent about 100,000 years as a collapsing protostar before temperature and pressure in the interior ignited fusion, nuclear fusion at its core in a few million years. It settled down into its current form. So that's how long it took for the sun to be produced. However, life on Earth would end in about a week without the sun. According to their gods and their angel messengers, it's only 80,000 years old and it can easily be replaced. The book of Cosmogony also says that it's silly to think that heat would come from the sun. I promise you, it says that. I have the article up, but with all the moving around, I couldn't find it. But it's in the book of Cosmogony, chapter 38 / you see the site right there. It says it's silly to think that heat comes from the sun. This book says that heat does not come from the sun. It says that heat comes from vortexia, from out of the earth and from out of things, because vortexia releases it. See, John Newborough was plagiarizing Cartesian cosmogony. And Rene Descartes, a real philosopher and scientist, talked about vortex creating the planets. So he didn't know a lot about, let's say, thermal dynamics. He didn't know a lot about this type of information, physics, because he was in the 19th century, in the 1800s, and he was so arrogant, being the slave master that he was born as. He's so arrogant. And when I say slave master, I mean his family. So arrogant, thinking no one will ever know if this is true or not, because he couldn't see forward enough that we were going to make advances in science. In the book of Cosmogony, John Newborough's gods also say the universe was created 24,000 years ago. As you see these brothers showing these ridiculous timelines, no diss to them, but let's be serious. The earth is billions of years old. We have radio technology of testing different types of rocks, and we know how to find out how old the earth is. But John Newborough back then figured they'll never have that kind of technology. John Newborough says that the thunder is an explosion caused by vortexia combining hydrogen and oxygen. Yes, we know that hydrogen and oxygen combined can cause an explosion, but thunder is not an explosion. It's a sound of lightning clapping. Let me read these facts real quickly. The facts, you heard the embarrassing Dr. Seuss Fragabapati thingamajiggy science on the left. Now let's read real science quickly. The sun, with a core of about 27 million degrees Fahrenheit and a corona atmosphere of a few million degrees Fahrenheit, sends heat energy to our planet and sustains life. By the way, Kemet knows that. Kemet knows that life begins with the sun. The cosmogony of the earth, of our universe started with the beginning of the sun being created, and not from a whirlwind. It's a supernova possibly that exploded, and the force of the supernova triggered the production of the sun in a nutshell, not to get too technical for everybody, but then the nuclear fusion, all of that good stuff. Yes, there's some truth sprinkled in with the Fragapati science, But the spaghetti science is not true because it says the sun doesn't give heat. It's already ridiculous. The sun is a gas, so primarily it's a gas, but the Book of Cosmogony says that the sun is it's comparable to a diamond. The sun is not comparable to a diamond in the fact that the sun is far more valuable. We cannot survive without it, and it's in mostly in a gaseous form. You get what I'm saying? But these are supposed to be heavenly beings that are right there, giving him all the exact information. No, it was a crackpot. No, sorry to hurt anyone's feeling. A crackpot, white, pompous man who thought he wanted to make a name for himself in the world. He kept failing with all of his inventions. And finally, he found a way to trick people into believing that some heavenly beings contacted him. He didn't think ahead of himself and say, one day they're going to know that this is all embarrassing BS. Okay, so the sun is about 864,938 miles in diameter, not 4.5 million miles in diameter. Come on. Jehovah didn't know that? Jehovah couldn't even give a ballpark? Come on, it's him. He just threw those numbers out there. So I want to move on. Oh, let me read this part too. He said that he's in the Book of Cosmogony. He says, neither light nor heat nor gravitation come from the sun to the earth. You can make this stuff up because he did. But if we look at energy, oh yes, he also said that it's silly to think that heat would come from the sun. And what do we think? Heat just it has to be created. That's what it says in the Book of Cosmogony. Yeah, that same book right there. You can go to it and look at it yourself. I didn't have time to grab it, but he says it's silly to think that energy, basically heat, just comes from somewhere and it just isn't used up. But the laws of thermodynamics exactly say that energy is not created or destroyed. But see, he couldn't fake it with thermodynamics because thermodynamics were just brand new, fairly new in the 1800s. And so he didn't get a chance to plagiarize that like he tried to plagiarize Cartesian cosmogony with the vortex. Do you see, this is where we're going with this. And I know I don't have a lot of time, so let me just get through these. Let's look at this right here. Book of Cosmogony, Oahpe. It says, vortexia in the atmosphere. This is actually a line from this book. Vortexia in the atmosphere will combine oxygen and hydrogen, and an explosion ensues, which is called thunder. No. What causes thunder and lightning? Lightning is an electrical discharge caused by a buildup of static electricity in clouds. Thunder is the sound produced by the rapid heating and expansion of the air by lightning strike. Don't come in here trying to say that means it exploded. Don't do that to yourself. Just let him be the embarrassed one, brothers. Don't come in here saying that means it was an explosion. It's not. Okay, here's another line that I quoted. If two corporeal, that means material, substances are rubbed together quickly, friction and heat result. This is a manifestation of vortexia, this energy that they say is from the swirling and the production, basically what he plagiarized from Cartesian cosmogony. But the problem is he didn't know that we were going to make advances in thermodynamics and in physics. He was too pompous. He thought, well, who cares? I'll be dead by that time. And I'll have a bunch of people reading this wonderful book, Fragapati, Spaghetti-Os, and everything. So yeah, we do know that this is incorrect because in science, in physics, friction speeds up molecules on the surface of objects rubbed together, okay? The speed of the molecules cause heat. There is no vortexia energy spinning within objects, which is released due to friction. I do want to say this too. Also in the Book of Cosmogony, it says that this, I guess they call it corporeal matter. It's basically material. In that book, John Newborough, his God, says that there's no, that basically the matter has no substance. It's inert. It has no power, no movement. So sad, because John Newborough just didn't think, well, they're going to find out about molecules and quarks and atoms and all that good stuff, electrons. There's all kinds of things going on. I mean, there's 3 states of matter, but sadly, John Newborough just said, I'm going to just put this together, and I tried my inventions. I tried my stapler, my calculator, nothing worked. This is my last roll of the dice, and it hit. Okay, so I also want to say here, this is a part of the laws of thermodynamics. Kinetic energy, meaning the friction is kinetic energy, basically movement, can be completely converted to thermal energy by friction, but the reverse is impossible. So I wanted to say that because he's saying that when you do the friction, let me go back. In the book of Cosmogony, Newborough says his God right here, you see the God right here. Actually, this is, I don't know, Thunderthoth. I forgot his name, but basically he says that the friction brings out something. No, the friction is, the heat is caused by the molecules moving, speeding up. Nothing is being brought out. Is heat being brought out? Yeah, that's why he's wrong. He thought, oh, I feel the heat coming out, so I'm just going to say vortexia comes out. No, the heat is from molecules and being sped up on the surface of the object. So it's all fake. Why didn't Jehovah and his angels know about thermodynamics? Well, real research and studies on thermodynamics only began in the 19th century. That's in the 1800s, when he was already doing, I don't know, he went on gold rushes and he was inventing calculators. He didn't get around to finding out the science behind thermodynamics, unfortunately for him, because he would have plagiarized it. He didn't know anything about it. So let me just keep going here. I got this. John B. Newborough was not, by the way, this is one of his spirit drawings of one of the gods. This is an actual spirit drawing that he did. John B. Newborough was not very familiar with the later research and scientific development of thermodynamics, astronomy, and physics, which were not as advanced in the 19th century when he was alive compared to now. That's why it's not in the book of Oahpe. This explains the silly statements his God Jehovah and his team of angels supposedly instructed him to type spiritually. This is proof that it was not God's, it was erroneous things Newborough learned, or that he thought he knew about. Okay, so as you see, the laws of thermodynamics, just going through them, he knew nothing about it, and you can see it all through that book of Cosmogony. I mean, he didn't know about a lot, but it's very apparent when he's like, the sun doesn't give light. There's no, where does
3 minutes? 3 minutes.
Energy needs to be created, and we need, it's used up. He knew nothing about it. The first and second laws were formally stated in works by German physicists. You see, these are the ones who actually did the research and created the laws. 1860, after John Newborough was dead, 1906 to 1912. So, yeah, let me get my last 3 minutes in to do this and just talk about time. Actually, he definitely didn't know anything about time. He was way off with the age of the Earth scientifically. These brothers keep on saying science, 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 but you're doing a lot of science talk, but this guy is ridiculous. Here's a Cartesian cosmology that I mentioned that he plagiarized. Descartes' vortex theory of planetary motion proved initially to be one of the most influential aspects of Cartesian physics. Can't get through that fast enough, but you see what I'm saying? Newborough that was from the 17th century. So he got all that under his cap, threw it in as vortexia, but he couldn't figure out the rest of the stuff that came along, like nuclear fusion, astronomy that is actually being used to figure out the age of the sun. and all other type of sciences that we have today. I do want to get down to this part, if I can, to talk about who he was. John Ballou was actually a spiritualist and called himself a medium. And during that age, that time, everyone was saying they could talk to spirits. This is actually a book that he wrote, family. He was asking a so-called spirit questions, and he wrote this book saying these are the answers from a spirit. Questions and answers from Spiritalis. He was pretty much a charlatan. As you see, that ridiculous science, nothing divine would have given him those ridiculous answers that the sun doesn't give heat to the earth. He lied when he was interviewed by New York Times. This is the article. I do have the article. It's too late for me to pull it up, but I do have it available if anybody needs it. Newborough lied when he was being interviewed by New York Times. He said that he never knew anything about Kemet, of the ancient religions. He said that he knew nothing about any ancient religions, but in this excerpt from a website that's for Oahpe believers, Newborough's adventurous spirit took him to California gold fields in 1849. He shared part of his good fortune, yada, yada, yada. Let's get down to this part. He witnessed deplored injustice, bigotry, especially toward Chinese in general, grab for personal fortune. He teamed up with Scottish-born John Turnbull. I wanted to get to the part where it says down here. Look at this part. After a couple of more years of living in a tent and adding considerably to his gold fortune, he sailed to Europe, China, India, Africa. But he's a liar. He's a liar in the article. He says, I don't want to replace any, by the way, in the article, he says, I don't want to replace the Bible or any religions. I just want to show add to it and explain it. He tried to take over. Don't let him take your mind.
That's it.
Thank you.
Don't let him take you. I am closing out.
Yo, y'all can't say nothing, man. I'm the only one supposed to be talking. Nobody shouldn't be talking.
Yeah, thank you very much. So that's correct. Thank you so much.
HOK, the House of Consciousness, hosted by the one and only sa.neter.
All right, everyone. Are y'all ready? Go take a quick break. We're getting ready to get it in on part two. Give me 2 minutes and we're going to rock. Part two, let's go. So Cosmon, are you ready, brother? Time will start when you start.
Share my screen.
Okay, let me get it. Screen is sharing, brother.
All right, just quickly, I'm gonna just debunk her whole talking point.
All
Her
right,
whole
time
talking
start.
point is that the sun gives heat to the earth. If that is objective proof, then why is the space between the face of the sun and the face of the earth freezing cold? Objective proof. She don't know what she's talking about. This is from NASA Webb Telescope. By the way, Webb Telescope is not going out our galaxy. It is going towards the sun, and it is getting colder right now, right this second. James Webb Telescope reached its final operating temperature below 7 kelvins or minus 447 degrees Fahrenheit. So let me share my screen right here. Now, this is my round 3, right? In this debate about science and time, creation and cosmogony of the solar system, right? This is what this debate is about. The science of time, creation, and cosmogony of our solar system. But instead of trying to prove their literature scientifically and objectively, or proving that the Commission text has any merit whatsoever, my opponents ignorantly want to debate a book that they haven't read. When someone argues a topic they don't know about, it's called a logical fallacy. Specifically, when it's an appeal to ignorance or an argument from ignorance. See, the Hoteps hope that by using your own personal racism, prejudice, ignorance, and black bias against you, that they could just easily move the goalposts and nobody would notice, right? Hoping to turn this scientific lecture into a soap opera. But see, trick no good. See, we only care about what the text say, not your personal opinion about what the text say. And notice, they went to the text and it ain't saying nothing about cosmogony at all. See, you might be able to get away with your own personal eisegesis with those who share your indoctrination, but attempting to legitimize a myth, an unfactual belief during a debate is not only irrational and oxymoronic, but is a foolish endeavor. Huh? Stop the stupidity. What does it mean to eisegete? It is the act of interpreting a text by introducing one's own ideas, agendas, or biases, or adding one's own subjective opinion. But see, that really becomes a problem when the so-called priest of the false god, remember, we talking about science, they talking about God, right? That becomes a problem when the priest of the false god, Jabari, says, and I quote, the Kemetic spiritual form is one that exists primarily in allegory. So no one will, he says, so no one will actually argue that Heru, or as the Greeks would call him, Horus, was a living person, Jabari. But funny, that's exactly what they were arguing about on the show, and that's exactly what the real commission said. But what Jabari doesn't know is that 143 years ago, Oahpe already prophesied and exposed that he and the so-called fake Kemetic wise men today in 2024 would be doubting the reality of their own God's book of knowledge. Headshot. I sent a storm into the colleges of learning, and the wise professors held their heads up, didn't you, Jabari? What you say? You said, I doubt the person of Osar. Literally. I doubt Osset. Literally. And don't they always say this? Aren't they just merely a principle or an aspect of nature? See, Oahpe revealed that 143 years ago that you and your LGBTQ God are fake. Now deal with it. Now remember, they trying to eisegete a myth. What is a myth? It's a widely held but false belief. But false belief or idea. Our myths are true or false. In general, myths are metaphorically and symbolically true. Yeah. But they are factually and literally false. So when people believe that a myth is literally true, they can be said to have a certain kind of religious indoctrination. We call it Egyptomania. See, in an attempt to indoctrinate you, as much as they have been indoctrinated, you will hear them using terms like little subjective terms, like it's a representation or a personification. Also using the word symbolic and metaphorical a lot to try to hide the fact that they actually have no objective proof of their claims. Now, watch. In the Commission text, Atum says he creates all things. Let's see how he does it, right? From the hymn of Atum, right? When I first began to create, when I alone was planning and designing many creatures, I copulated with my own fists, I masturbated in my own hand, and I ejaculated in my own mouth. Hold on, pause, P. Diddy. That's not cosmogony, that's just crazy. Now let the creator show you objectively, not through a myth, how a planet is created. This is how creation and cosmogony should look. Now pay close attention. There is no cartoon character sitting in space giving himself a blowjob. You boys been duped. Now, as shown before, right, the earth was a molten fireball. Where does the seed of the building blocks of life come from then, Cosmon? Book of Jehovah. Book of the Creator. In the next age, I bring the earth in the Simu or spring, and it is right for the bringing forth of the creatures. And I bestow the vegetable and the animal kingdoms, further showing a system in order to all creation. But what is Simu? Simu is commingled earth, air, water, heat, and thick atmosphere, protoplasmic-like and colloidal-like substance. What does it mean? What is protoplasm? Protoplasm is the living part of a cell, including cytoplasm, nucleus, and the other organelles. What does it mean to be colloidal? Where one substance consisting of microscopically dispersed insoluble particles is suspended throughout another substance, like semen. Now, watch the Cometians get all excited when I mention semen. Now, has science found this Simu? Yes. And even though science hasn't proved it sufficiently to itself, its theory about where Simu comes from is exactly correct. See, we know what a Simu, but they call it star jelly. Star jelly is a gelatinous substance sometimes found on grass and less commonly on the branches of trees. How I get in trees? According to folklore, it is deposited on the earth during meteor showers. Now that we've shown that there is a process to all things, even creation, let's get an explanation from the creator itself, how it creates life. Book of the Creator, tell me, oh my creator, where did life come from? This unseen within me that's conscious of being. Tell me how all the living came into life. Creator heard the words of man, and he answered them saying, let a sign be given to man so that he may comprehend Simu. When the earth and the shores by the water, and the waters also were covered over with commingled atmosphere and corporeal substance, or DNA, this substance was called Simu, or the building block, because by his presence, the creator quickened it, Simu, into life, and in that way, he made all the living, right? Both the vegetable and animal world. So if you want to understand this, think the multi-regional theory plus panspermia, but on the fractal quantum level. And this also goes to show Asar and proving why some meteors carry the building blocks of life and some don't, right? But let's look at the children's story of Hermopolis, right? Thoth, Tahuti, in the form of a bird, lays an egg in outer space. Now, can any of these trans-African scholars explain scientifically and objectively, I would love to hear this, how a male bird lays an egg, right? This ain't about myth. This got to be real. So how does a male bird lay an egg? See, while on the other hand, everything in our text can be proven objectively, with the bonus that science only backs up what we saying. See, the book of the Creator, all was, is, ever shall be. The all spoken motion was and is and ever shall be. And being positive force was called he and him, the all motion was a speech. First, we must understand that the Creator explains itself as all space and time. All was, is, ever shall be. That is past, present, and future. This is conscious intelligence declaring that it is space and time. So to prove this statement, we must ask ourselves a very simple question. Is all time measured in a sequence of events? Yes. Source. Time is a sequence of existence and events, right, that occur apparently irreversible from past, present to future. So not only does science agree, but objective reality agrees with Oahpe, right? Second, Oahpe asserts that motion was and is and never shall be. So the question is, are all things in motion? And does science back this assertion? Yes. Source, why is everything in motion? Why? The gravitational force and the electromagnetic force ensure that large objects are in motion, while the weak and strong nuclear forces ensure quantum world is constantly in motion. See, this scientific source further proves that it's the positive force, the he-him electromagnetism, that keeps all things in motion. Again, proven objectively and scientific that Oahpe is just on a higher level. And thirdly, Oahpe claims that the all spoke, To speak is to express or to bring forth. And since all things are made of elements and chemicals, we must now ask the question, do elements make audible sounds? Yes. And again, science proves Oahpe correct. Do elements make sounds? And what do elements sound like? Source, using a technique called data sonification, a recent college graduate has converted the visible light given off by the elements into audio. Look, elements emit visible light when they're energized. This is the periodic table of elements with photos of atomic spectra. But see, what Asar don't know is that data sonification, right? The atomic spectra or light of atomic elements is the key and octave of each element. And this is how the all speaks. Headshot. See, the system of order and creation revealed in the book of Sky, Earth, and Spirit, while simple enough that a child can understand it, is light years above whatever Egyptian science is in clarity and application. See, the system of creation is sound, creates motion, creates force, creates substance. See, it's simple, ain't it? But quite clever. See, in one fell swoop, Oahpe not only clears up the misunderstandings of Newtonian science, but also the theory of relativity, or E equals mc squared, which is the equation for the radiation of energy from matter. But see, what none of the gods of Egypt have enough intelligence to tell you, is how energy gets into matter. Source, James McGill, Study of Oahpe, Book of Safa, the description of Agni, the emblem of corporeal mass dissolution and the escape or the release of the potent power or energy within. See, here we have the statement of the equivalence of mass and energy, or Einstein's E equals mc squared for a special theory of relativity. It was in Oahpe in 1881, long before Einstein formulated his equation in 1905. See, equals mc squared is a lot of energy released from a little mass, but M equals EC squared is a lot of energy compressed into a little mass. You ain't got that. Where is Patay now? Gonna take another snowball to the face? Spit out a tough net? I bet you did. Remember, sound creates motion, creates force, creates substance. The astounding part is not only does science 100% agree with Oahpe, but science created a whole field of study to prove it. How many of you have ever heard of the science of cymatics? I had to take your shit, Osar. You wasn't using it right. The sound of cymatics, sound of life.
No profanity, brother.
Oh, my bad. Cymatics is the field of study that focuses on visible vibrations and sounds. You wasn't rocking this right, Asar. Formerly cataloged as a subset of modal phenomena, cymatics is the evidence of the universal interconnectivity of all things. So a sound creates motion, creates force, creates substance. Well, the next logical question should be, well, what is the initial sound of creation? And how does that tie into creator in Oahpe? Source, the significance of Om. Om is the primordial sound from which the universe was created. Now, remember that the creator states, Book of Jehovah, I am apparent two entities. Nevertheless, I am only one. These entities are the unseen, or the male, which is potent, and the seen, or the female, which is of itself impotent and called corporeal physicality. So if Amun, Atum, Ptah, whoever is claiming to be all things, he must not only be the positive male force, but he must also be the negative female force. See, the creator can't have a parent or a sibling or a wife. Objectively, right? There is no left without a right, no positive without a negative, and definitely no male without a female. That's just common sense. But in Oahpe, that male positive force is called Eoa, or Jehovah, right? But what is the female negative force of the creator called? Om. Let's tie it in. Om is the negative of the creator. The female That which projects is positive, electric and male, but that which receives is negative, magnetic and female. Nevertheless, the all one is just one with two attributes. This is the sign of Ohm. This also explains, one, the cause of electromagnetism, and two, the source of the electromagnetic spectrum. Now, remember that the micro is a representation of the macro. So if Ohm, right? So if Ohm is the original sound of creation using the science of cymatics, the Ohm sound should create a structure that resembles a solar system, correct? Let me show y'all this. This is cymatics in work using on the Ohm. Turn it up. If it creates using a solar system like shape using Ohm.
Oh, yes. Wow.
Do that look like a solar system to you? Right? Huh? See, he told you about cymatics, but he didn't show you how cymatics work. Right? That's a headshot. Now, see, there's only one all-perfect mechanism. Harmony, symmetry, beauty, life, and spirality are its calling cards, whether called electricity, magnetism, or light. It is all one energetic force, as revealed in the book of Cosmogony and Prophecy, right? The same principles apply to all stars, suns, and planets, but differing in manifestation or electromagnetism, light, or gravity on account of size, motion, density, and relative place. Does science agree with Oahpe? Yes. Source, electricity, and magnetism are essentially two aspects of the same force, because a changing electric field creates a magnetic field, and a changing magnetic field creates electric field. Huh? Look at the mechanical wave and the sound wave. Again, science vindicates Oahpe. But look, this is from the text of Pyramid of Pepe, right? It says, the skull of this Pepe is a Deccan star of the dial. Now, pay close attention, y'all. The Cometians claim that a man can turn into a star. That's what they claim. While Oahpe is teaching man how to create stars. See, and that, my friends, is the difference between Oahpe and Kemet. Remember, unlike Egypt, Oahpe has a system in order to create. Sound creates motion, creates force, creates substance. So does science agree with the method revealed in Oahpe when it comes to making heavenly bodies? Yes. It's called the science of making stars. Let me show you how to rock it right. It's called sonoluminescence. Sonoluminescence is the emission of light from imploding bubbles in a liquid when excited by sound. But this is what he ain't showed you. He ain't went to his text and made it make sense. Let me show you how to do this. The duration or length of the flash depends on several factors, including the frequency of the sound field, the amplitude of the sound pressure, size of the bubbles, and the type of liquid and the gas inside the bubble, which is exactly what Oahpe just said was the reason for the difference in manifestation of force, period. Book of Cosmogony, again, differing in manifestation or electromagnetism, light, or gravity on account of size, motion, density, and relative place. Headshot. See, we can apply Oahpe science today and offer every modern American the path to free food, clothing, and shelter. Peace to R&B. In contrast, Egypt and its netter gods have been dead, weak, powerless, and impotent since Alexander and the more powerful Greek gods came through and crushed the buildings in the 4th century BC. Body blow. But see, the phallic cult of Osiris, right?
1 minute. 1 minute.
The phallic cult of Osiris claims that the moon was made out of a tears. But let's show you how it's done. And by the way, it's called Yah. But for any uninformed Hebrew pickaninny up here buck dancing for their historic enslaver, you are ashamed to your ancient ancestors. Oahpe says at one time the earth had a nebulous ring around it. This belt in time losing pace with the earth created the atmosphere, losing pace with the earth's atmosphere condensed and made the moon. Officially, we got a second moon in our sky right now. Look it up, right? But does science agree with Oahpe? Yes, it turns out that Earth may once have had a ring. This is how your moon was made. Huh? And down goes Frazier. Right? But this is where, see, freaky ass Kemet always been a 69 god, but see, this is where it all goes bad for him. See, they claiming that JBN made this up out his mind, but the objective proof that the ass whooping is the butt kicking they taking right now. Objective proof is that the white boy is entirely more wise than their gods is. That's a checkmate.
All right, time.
First of all, I want to start by showing you this.
Time start.
This is my book of Oahpe that I've had since 1992. When I first read it, there's some on the other side that believe that we've never read the book. I don't know why they think we've never read the book. Perhaps it's because we continue to say that it's ludicrous. But the reality is, once we read it, we were wise enough to recognize that what we were reading was ridiculous. Let's move. I want to be able to show you why this is ridiculous. First of all, take a look at this. This debate will prove that the folks that are speaking do not know what they're talking about. Some of the things that you've heard so far, you've heard that a helix in our DNA is the same as a vortex. That is not correct. But simply because something is circular in motion, it does not make it a vortex. A vortex is what their founder would like you to believe everything exists on. Your DNA does not move in a vortex. We just heard someone say that. A ridiculous comment. Here's a vortex. A vortex is something that resembles a whirlpool. Are you saying that our DNA resembles a whirlpool? They're going to make a lot of comments that need to be corrected. By the way, we also heard that the Oahpe Bible tells us that the earth has a molten core. I dare them to show me where it says that the core is molten. The word molten is very old. Even according to etymology online, you'll see that the word molten just means a melted state. And it refers mostly to metal. And that is all the way from 1300 CE. So simply saying the word molten does not mean molten core. So you might ask yourself, why are they doing that? Because they are victims of what we call confirmation bias. What is confirmation bias? Confirmation bias is a people's tendency to process information by looking for or interpreting information that is consistent with their existing beliefs. This biased approach to decision making is largely unintentional, and it results in a person ignoring information that is inconsistent with their beliefs. I want you to understand that the folks on Team Kemet, Asar Remka, and clearly Napa has showed you their confirmation bias. So today we're going to vet them. We're going to vet them from someone who has read their book probably before they read their book. We just also heard Cosmon say, by the way, I'm not going to mock his voice, which would be easy. I'm just not going to do that because we're going to defeat you on the information, friend. I don't have to try to make fun of you. You've done that yourself. He actually tried to say in countering Napa that the sun does not heat the earth. And that's because they don't understand his science. This comes from space.com. How cold is space? The physics behind temperature and the universe. There are three ways to heat to transfer conduction. Three ways for heat to transfer: conduction, which occurs through touch; convection, which happens when fluids transfer heat; and radiative, which occurs via radiation. Conduction and convection can't happen in empty space due to the lack of matter, and heat transfer occurs slowly by the radiative process alone. This means that heat doesn't transfer quickly in space. As freezing requires heat transfer, an exposed astronaut who's losing heat via the radiative process alone would die of decompression due to the lack of atmosphere much more rapidly than they freeze to death. I want you to understand that while they say the word science, they have never studied science. They think that a vortex is anything circular. They also think that the sun does not transfer heat. They have lots of problems and don't even realize it. By the way, really quickly, I want you to know that this debate we've said is about cosmogony, right? Which is the study of the origin of the universe. But what is a universe? The universe is the whole body of things and phenomena observed or postulated, such as a systematic whole to arise by and persist through direct intervention of divine power. The world of human experience and, of course, coming to us from, by the way, when I am showing a source, I show you what I'm reading from the source. I don't just say my own opinion and then say source and pretend that the source, the citation of the source says what I said. That's what they keep doing. That's not, how do I know that what you are putting on the screen says what you said? They don't know how to show a source. But I want you to understand the universe is everything, including you. They don't even know what the universe is. Let's go into who John Ballou Newbro is. I told you we're going to vet them. When we are finished, they will run with their tails between their legs. When we are finished, no one will believe this ridiculous concept that they're putting forward. So who is Newbro? He's a dentist who claims to produce the Oahpe through automatic writing on a typewriter. He was born in Ohio from a family with enslaved African owning ties. He earns money through the gold rush in both the Western United States and Australia. And he spends years studying world religions and becomes a trustee of the New York Spiritualist Association. He studied everything. That's why he sticks everything in his book. You got the book of Thor, the book of Apollo. You got stuff that comes from China. You got Zarathustra, and you have ancient Kemet. He studied everything, and he stole everything. He's also the author of a novel called The Fall of Fort Sumter, Love and War 1860. And the book critiques abolitionists, those people who were fighting against your enslavement, the enslavement of your ancestors. And in that book, he liberally uses the term nigger. He establishes an ill-fated commune in Las Cruces, New Mexico, named the Land of Shalom in 1884, and he is a member of a Masonic order. Let's continue. These are the major problems. I'm going to go through about 6 of them, maybe about 3 or 4 of them with the first round that I have. But here are some of the major problems with the Oahpe book. First, it describes the universe as being held together by vortices. Second, it's clearly based on the time period which it was written. By the way, if the divine force was giving this information to Newbro, why does the information sound like information we had in the 1880s? Why isn't the universal information of the ages? That's not what we hear when we look at this ridiculous book. Its tree of languages is absolutely ridiculous. I'm going to show it to you. And family, it describes Black people as primitive beings who die early in the text, by the way. And it does not include Black people as spiritual leaders. Why, African, have you gotten yourself mixed up with this foolishness? Why? Let's continue. It cites the creation of modern humans as occurring around 72,000 years ago. Ridiculous. We know that modern humans emerged somewhere between 300,000 and 200,000 years ago. And then we have to also ask, why could Newbro say that the angels or spirits tell him to write the book, but then they also tell him to go copy images from others' books? Does that sound like something a divine force would do? I will show you him saying it himself. Finally, the book includes lots of gibberish. I have believed that maybe about 30 to 50% of the book is straight gibberish. Let's continue. First of all, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this. I think the sa.neter TV Studios audience has already heard that describing the universe being held together by vortices is ridiculous. Here's an article from Slate. No, our solar system is not a vortex. And this person, a scientist, Phil Plait, says he's been getting lots of tweets and emails from folks linking to a slick-looking video, a computer animation showing the motion of the planets around the sun and the sun orbit around the Milky Way galaxy. It's a pretty well done video, but you have to understand, it is not just superficially, it's deeply wrong based on a very wrong premise. This is from scientists, not from dudes who know very little about science and even less about their book and nothing about ancient Kemet. That's what we're hearing tonight. By the way, this is the diagram that Nubro gives us for the serpent. This is the vortex by which the planets, our solar systems, are existing. I want you to look at, this comes from their book family, the planets that they're listing. First the sun, then Mercury, then the Earth, then Mars. Wait a minute. Between Mercury and the Earth, isn't there a planet there? Are you telling me that they get the planets wrong in this book? And then there's Aratea, which, by the way, is he's mispronouncing, mistyping the name of an asteroid. Vesta, another asteroid. Sirius, another asteroid. Then Jupiter and Saturn, Uranus. I want you to understand that his model of the solar system is deeply flawed. No one, even in 1880, would make this argument. Why? He's not a scientist. He's a charlatan. We know that this is the angle of where the Earth is with regard to the rest of the planets. The sun, then Mercury, then Venus, and then the Earth, then Mars, then Jupiter. Look at his listing of the Earth and where it exists on the planet. Doesn't everyone know that the Earth is the third rock from the sun? Nubro didn't. Obviously, this is ridiculous. How about his time period? He says that the world actually exists. It was created around 72,000 years ago. And in fact, the first 4,800 describes the creation of mankind. This is from Oahpe.com. You can see the citation. And this comes directly. This is a screenshot of their site. This is ridiculous. We know that modern humans developed around 300,000 years ago. What does this date come from? A nether orifice. That's where it comes from. And in addition to this, I want you to look at his description of the worship of the gods. This comes from Oahpe. Once again, from my Oahpe. We see the great god which appears 18,000 to 9,000 BCE is Apollo, Thor, and Osire, he says. What? Apollo and Thor are before Osar? According to who? This is completely wrong. Are you telling me that the Roman god and the Greek god come before the Neteru in Kemet? Doesn't everyone at home know that this is wrong? Why are they pretending like this book is the blueprint for the universe and describes the world's history when it is so deeply flawed? There's a reason why there's only a small group of people reading this book, because everyone else who reads it recognizes it doesn't make sense. By the way, this comes from the Smithsonian National Museum of Natural History. And you can see here, during a time of dramatic climate change, 300,000 years ago, Homo sapiens evolved in Africa. Homo sapiens, modern humans, not 72,000 years ago. This is someone who doesn't know what he's talking about. By the way, this is a source, friends. This is a source. By the way, look at the Kemetic timeline. He's put Kemet as the most recent of them. But I want you to look at this timeline that comes from Nemo.new. This is a scholarly source. Look at the Kemetic Empire. The Neolithic Empire of Kemet begins somewhere around 6,000 to 3,500 BCE. By the way, I would think that that is an extremely conservative date. I would date the beginning of Kemet to at least Nabta Playa. You've heard me say this before. But even with the extremely conservative date, look at where the Greeks and the Romans are. How do you say that Apollo comes next? How did they get that? How? Because the guy that wrote this had no idea what he was talking about. Let's go further. By the way, I want you to also recognize you shouldn't be surprised that they're speaking ill of ancient Kemet, because they've even, in the book of Oahpe, taken this ridiculous concept of Ham that comes from the Abrahamic tradition. Look at this. Ham is this is directly from the book of Oahpe, by the way. This is a screenshot. The cosmological name of Egypt is Ham. The followers of Abram bestowed the country's name on him when they settled there. Wait a minute. You're saying that the Hebrews are before the Kemetic people? Even the Hebrew Israelites don't argue that. But that's what this book says. And by the way, Ham is someone who is black with sunburn. Family, are you black with sunburn? Or are you able to recognize that this is ridiculous? Take a look at their tree of life. This is number 3. This is their tree of life. It says, and this is a direct quote, Pan of language, the first guttural sounds approximating words. Point, beginning with labial word sounds. Huit, first aqueous languages. Fus, first written word signs. By the way, now he goes to Chine, which is how he describes China. Are you telling me China is before all of the African traditions? And then he goes to Yah, and then Abram, they're the Hebrews again. Then to Phonens, then to Aham, then to Ibra, then to Sanskrit, then to Araba, and this is the first Egyptian. Are you telling me that you believe this? By the way, he also argues that, that there are 4 branches of the earth, and they are China, India, Europe, and America. These are the 4 branches of the earth. They have left you out, African. And you got these black dudes up here. They've been hoodwinked and led astray. And they want to tell you that this is what you should actually work with. You should have thought something was wrong when you saw the white dentist from Manhattan in the 1880s. That should have been a hint to run the other way. But that's exactly what they did. Here we go. This comes from theworld.com. The world's languages are traced back to a single African mother tongue, scientists say. Instead, look at their mother tongues on this branch of 4. Look at where they have it. Kemet doesn't come to here. Oh, my mouse. Where's my mouse? Anyway, just look at it. I hope
3 minutes
that this makes no sense whatsoever, and he has written you out. Let's also talk about how the book describes black people as primitive beings who die early in the book and does not include black people as spiritual leaders. I want you to look here. Every single time you look at this, you're going to see the black people in the book are the Drooks. This comes from chapter 2. The Ihuns were white and yellow. By the way, this is why he's excited about the Chinese, because he wants to say the European and the Chinese predate the African. But the Drooks were brown and black. They were tall and stout. Let's continue with the Drooks. Look here. But they mixed with the Drooks. Okay, the Ihuns, even before the flood, were in the first place born capable of everlasting life. But they mixed with the Drooks until the seed of the spirit of eternal life became exhausted. And he also calls in this chapter the Drooks the ground people. You're the ground people. He says here in chapter 11 that the Drooks are the evil people who will not learn. He goes here and he says, it is not proven that the Drooks have souls. Sound familiar? The Drooks don't even have souls. These are the black and brown people. Look at this. Div propounded, a man and woman in mortal life were as Drooks, being filthy and idle, begging from day to day, and yet they had born to them many children. Listen to this racist claptrap. This is what they're trying to sell you, family. This is what they think is good for you. By the way, here are Nubro's own drawings of the spiritual leaders of the world. The one at the top left is Abraham. Where are the black folks? These are the spiritual leaders of the world. Well, Nubro steals thoroughly from Kemet. You would think that maybe he would depict the Kemetic person as black. This is his depiction of Tothma or Hojax, who lived approximately 5,000 years, and he's the builder of the Great Pyramid of Egypt. Folks, we know that the builder of the Great Mur, the Great Pyramid of Kemet, is not this white guy that he's showing you, but we know that, actually, I don't have his image here. I want you to see the Africans who established Kemet. You see Narmer on the left. You see the world's first dentist, Hesi Ra, in the middle. And you see the man that wrote the world's oldest book, Ptahhotep. These are Africans, not this person he's showing you. This is what Nubra did. Is this good for you, family? By the way, here also in my Oahpe, look at his outline. Oh, I showed you this already. I want you to take a look at this. If Nubra is arguing that he was able to write automatically, then why did the spirits and angels tell him to copy from other books? This is a direct quote from his letter. It says, for 50 weeks this continued, every morning half an hour or so before sunrise, and then it ceased. And I was told to read and publish the book Oahpe. The particular Oahpe.
I'm going to level the playing ground by first exposing that the concept of Kemetic science as stands today stands on the shoulders of European Egyptologists who gave you everything you need to know about Egyptian science. So if we're going to take shots at John Bilal Nubro, one white man who authorized the Oahpe Bible, it's time to take shots at Kemet. First, starting with Athanasius Kircher, was a German Jesuit scholar. He did, however, correctly establish the link between the ancient Egyptian and the Coptic language, and some commentators regard him as the founder of Egyptology. Kircher was the most famous, the decipherer between ancient and modern times, and the most famous Egyptology of his day. Kircher helped pioneer Egyptology as far as a field of serious studies. He learned Coptic in 1633 and published his first grammar in 1636. The book was Kircher's first venture into the field of Egyptology, and it also contains the first ever published grammar of the Coptic language. What is grammar? In linguistics, grammar is the set of rules for how a natural language is constructed, as demonstrated by who? Its speaker or writer. Who is the speaker and writer in this case? Athanasius Kircher. You couldn't speak about Kemetic science if you don't know Egyptian grammar, and you wouldn't know Egyptian grammar if it wasn't for Athanasius. Kircher argued that Coptic preserved the last development of ancient Egyptian. For this, Kircher has been considered the true founder of Egyptology, whereas the first ever published grammar of the Coptic language and founder of Egyptology, coming from the Bantu Negro in the Congos in the 1600s, specifically for the black community, that we could frame these modern ideas. Joseph V. Guinea, he is recognized for proving that cartouche rings in Egyptian texts contain royal names. Where is the Bantu Negro from the Congo in the 1700s explaining to us that the Egyptian royal names are in cartouches? Samuel Birch, in 1867, Samuel Birch of the British Museum published the first extensive English translation. In 1876, he published a photographic copy of the Papyrus of Nebseni. What is translation? The process of reworking text from one language into another to maintain the original message and communication. The work of E.A. Wallace Budge, Burke's successor, at the British Museum is still widely in circulation, including both his hieroglyphic edition and his English translation of the Papyrus of Eni. Where is the Bantu Negro from the Congos in the 1700s that's giving us a translation of the Papyrus of Eni and Nebseni for the black community today to understand? The science of the 42 Laws of Ma'at comes from the papyrus and translation by Samuel Birch. George Zoga was a Danish scientist. George Zoga compilation of catalogs of hieroglyphs and discovered that the direction of reading depending on the direction in which the glyphs were read. Asa, where the Bantu Negro at? You wouldn't know how to read the directions of the hieroglyph if it wasn't for George Zoga. Where's the Bantu Negro from the Congo telling you this, Asa? Thomas Young, he was instrument in the decipherment of Egyptian hieroglyphs, specifically the Rosetta Stones. What is decipherment? The discovery of the meaning of text written in ancient or obscure languages or script. By 1814, Young had completely translated an choral text of the Rosetta Stone. Several scholars have suggested that Young's true contribution to Egyptology was the decipherment of the demonic script. He has made the first major advancement in this area. He also correctly identifies demonic as being composed of both ideograph and phonetic signs. Where is the Bantu Negro from the Congo that is on the continent in the 1700s, deciphering and translating the Rosetta Stones for the black community to understand? Champollion announced the transliteration of the Egyptian scripts in Paris in 1822. What is transliteration? The process of transferring a word from the alphabet of one language to another. Champollion then made a second crucial breakthrough, realizing that the alphabetic sign were used not only for foreign names, but also for Egyptian names. First breakthrough in the decipherment of the Rosetta hieroglyph, showing that the Egyptian writing system was a combination of phonetic and ideograph signs. He is regarded as what? The founder and father of Egyptology. Where's the Bantu Negro from the Congo that is on the continent, specifically at this time, deciphering and translating the signs of the Egyptian hieroglyphs? Where he at? Christian Charles, German Egyptologist Bunsen, coined the term Old, Middle, and New Kingdom in 1845 to describe a period in ancient Egyptian history that is considered one of three golden ages. The term was used by archaeologists in the 19th century to help distinguish Egyptians' long history. But the Egyptians themselves did not use the name and likely did not see a difference between the Old, Middle, and New Kingdom periods before and after. With that being said, we don't have a clue how the ancient Egyptians tracked time of history. The concept of the division of the Old, Middle, and New Kingdom was fathered by Christian Charles. Sir John Gardner was an English traveler, writer, pioneer, Egyptologist of the 19th century. He is often referred to as what? The father of British Egyptology. Where's the Bantu Negro from the Congo in the late 1800s, proven to be the father of Egyptology in Britain? Where they at? Nicola Francisco was also an Italian Egyptologist, a scholar and friend of Champollion. Look, these niggas showing their pedigree. He is regarded as the founder of Egyptology in Italy. Where is the Bantu Negro from the Congo in the 1800s, proven to be the father of Egyptology in Italy? It was niggas there. It was brothers there. Carl Richard, German Egyptology, first translator of a complete copy of the Book of the Dead manuscript. In 1842, Carl Richard published a translation of the manuscript dated to the Ptolemaic era, coined the name Book of the Dead. Where is the Bantu Negro from the Congo that is on the continent in the 1800s, specifically translating a complete copy of the Book of the Dead for brothers to understand and read? He has also introduced the spelling numbering system in which spell and use, identifying 165 spells. Carl Richard published widely in the field of Egyptology. He is considered what? The father of this modern scientific discipline. Carl Richard also documented the Abydos Kings list and published its finding in 1858. They go to Abydos King list. Where is the Bantu Negro from the Congo on the continent, publishing the Abydos King list for we can read? Henry Edouard was a Swiss archaeologist, Egyptologist, biblical scholar. He was a student of Carl Richards. Look at that. These Europeans are showing their pedigree. Where's the pedigree of the black man at this time? He first visited Egypt in 1865, where he copied the Horus text in the Temple of Edfu. They go to the Temple of Edfu. Where is the Bantu Negro in the Congo that is on the continent, right up the street from the Temple of Edfu, bringing us this information? We got Maspero, was a French Egyptologist, widely regarded as the foremost Egyptologist of his generation. He began his career teaching the Egyptian language. Maspero was what? The first editor and translator of the pyramid text, known as the Book of the Dead. Where is the Bantu Negro from the Congo in the late 1800s, specifically teaching the Egyptian language and giving us the translation of the Book of the Dead? Where he at, Jabari? Now we come to Petrie. He has been referred to as the father of Egyptology, of Egyptian archaeology. The Menptah Stela, discovered by Petrie at Thebes in 1896, first translated by Wilhelm Spiegelberg. Wilhelm Spiegelberg was a German Egyptologist. He specialized in analysis of the demonic and hieratic script. Spiegelberg made important contribution toward the deciphering of the demonic script and the field of the demonic lexicograph. What is a lexicon? A lexicon is a vocabulary of language. What is a lexicograph? A lexicograph, the art of compiling dictionaries. Nigga, where's the Bantu Negro from the Congo that is on the continent giving us a lexicon of the demonic script? Huh? You getting it from the white boy. Here go Bulge. Bulge was an English Egyptologist. Bulge argued that the religion of Osiris had emerged from an indigenous African people, but stated that the fact that the black man was the ancient Egyptians long before brothers today trying to prove that Egypt is a black land. Bulge already made the claim. We know that the ancient Egyptians laid the foundation, but where was the black man in modern times giving us the revision? James Edwards was a British Egyptology, The Narmer palette was discovered in 1898 by James Edwards. How many times they break about the Narmer palette? You wouldn't know nothing about the Narmer palette if it wasn't for this white boy. Weiner Kaiser, Egyptology. It was Professor Kaiser of the German Archaeological Institution in Cairo who in 1964 identified the name Narmer. Where was the black man identifying the name Narmer? Not only that, here we have a look at the Narmer palette. This is our very first example of the very first pharaoh in history dating to 3100 BC. And what we see here is the first depiction of black on black crime before any European and Arab colonizer ever was recorded in history. And you want to talk about the colonizer when Narmer is colonizing his own brother. Where is Ma'at? Laws of Ma'at broken by Narmer. I have not slain a man. Here is Narmer slaying his brother. I have not terrorized anyone. Here is Narmer terrorizing his brother. I have not behaved with violence. Here is Narmer behaving with violence. I have not caused disruption of peace. Here is Narmer causing disruption of peace. I have not worked evil. Here is Narmer working evil. You would expect the first pharaoh to show us an example of the principle of Ma'at, but instead we see the first pharaoh breaking all the principles of Ma'at. And you do know what happens when you break the principle of Ma'at. You go to the Amit, the little creature that devours your soul. So that's where Narmer is at right now. Gustave Jacquer, conducted the first systematic study of the pyramid text, specializing in the pre-dynastic period. He late published the complete corpus of the text found in these 5 pyramids. Where is the Bantu Negro from the Congo that is on the continent in the mid-1800s, bringing us a science of a systematic study of the pyramid text? Where you at, Jabari? Hence Scoffer, the first full publication and translation was done in 1902 by Henrik Scoffer. This is the Palmetto Stone. Where is the Bantu Negro bringing us the Palmetto Stone in modern times? Where he at, Jabari? Faulkner was an English Egyptologist and philosopher. He made major contributions to Egyptology with his translation and index of many important ancient Egyptian texts. Where is the Bantu Negro from the Congo that is on the continent in the mid-18th century translating an index of Egyptian texts? Now, I just ran down 400 years from the 1600s on down of Europeans who framed the idea of modern-day Egyptology. Show me 400 years from the 1600s on down of the black man reframing Egyptian literature in modern times so we don't have to rely on these white boys. Where they at, Jabari? So your idea of the science of Egypt, your concept of the science of Egypt, your explanation of the science of Egypt, your transliteration, translation, decipherment, grammar, lexicograph of Egypt is all fathered and styled by European Egyptologists. Black Egyptology stands on the shoulders of European Egyptologists. The best of your black Egyptologists sit at the feet of these European Egyptologists. What are we talking about here? We got the Shrine of Ptah, the 42 new ethical laws, the covenant of Ma'at. The idea and concept of the science of the 42 laws of Ma'at comes from the translation of the interpretation of Samuel Birch. He gave you that. Shrine of Ma'at. What is a shrine? A shrine is a sacred place dedicated to a specific deity, ancestor, venerated or worshipped. A shrine at which votive offerings are made is called an altar. What is an altar? An altar is a table or platform for the presentation of religious offerings for sacrifice or for the ritualistic purposes. We see Jabari at the altar. Now, does Jabari practice an ancient Egyptian order, or is the Shrine of Ma'at following a more Western esoteric philosophy? Let's see. Founder of the ancient Arabic order noble of the mystic shrines in 1872, William Flemings and William James. Walter Flemings and William James. Flemings created the ritual, emblem, and customs the group adopted a Middle Eastern theme, the same way Jabari adopted an Egyptian theme, and soon established temples all through. Although the term temple was now replaced by shrine auditorium or shrine center. The first temple established was Mecca Temple, established at New York City Masonic Hall on September 26, 1872. Now, what makes these shrines any different from Jabari and the Shrine of Ma'at? They're both symbolizing Egyptian influence under the term shrine. Now here comes the Black Shrine, John J. Jones. Now look at him. He was the highest 33rd degree Mason in the United States, a black man. Historically, the shrine was openly only to white men. In 1893, a black counterpart to Shriners movement was initiated by John James and other Prince Hall Masons, initially called the Ancient Egyptian Arabic Order Noble Mystic Shrine of North and South America and its jurisdiction. So here we have John Jones adding the name Ancient Egyptian to the head of Shrine organization as a response to the European Shriners. Ain't nothing Ancient Egyptian about y'all. Now here we have the Assault Society, R.A. Strawhan, Ra-un-Nefer Amin. The Assault Society is a Rosicrucian body. Keep notes. especially orientated to meet the needs of African Americans, was founded in the mid-1970s by R.A. Strawhan, formerly the head of the Rosicrucian Anthropological League in New York City. The Asar Set Society, which Jabari is a part of, I'm sure of, is a Rosicrucian body. Now look, now here is the website of the Rosicrucian Anthropological League in New York that Strawhan is the head of. Now let's read. Now pay attention to the rows. I want you to pay close attention to the rows. They got the Ankh with the cross and the rows. Now let's read together. The rows and cross represents experience and challenges of a thoughtful life well lived. Thus, by our name and symbol, we represent the ancient fraternity of Rosicrucian, perpetuating the true tradition of Rosicrucian movement from centuries past to the present. This is on the website that he's the head of. Who started the Rosicrucian order? Now here we have the Rosicrucian order. Here's the Temple of the Rosicrucian, a depiction in 1618, and here's the founder. Rosicrucian is a spiritual and cultural movement that arose in early modern Europe in the early 17th century. Rosicrucian is symbolized by the rosy cross or red cross. So here it states the Rosicrucian is a modern European spiritual movement. Like I said earlier, Jabari and the Shrine of Ma'at is not rooted in the ancient Egyptian order, but the Western European Rosicrucian order, which the Asar Set Society admits being a Rosicrucian body. Here's the founder, Croatian Rosencreuz, illustrated by John Augustus, 1614. The famous of the Brotherhood of the Rosy Cross represents the legend of a German doctor, a mystic philosopher referred to as Father Brother CRC, later identified in the Third Manifesto as Christian Rosencreuz or Rose Cross. The year 1378 is presented as being the birth year of our Christian father, as it states that he lived 106 years. He gathered a small circle of disciple friends and founded the Rosicrucian order. This can be deduced to having occurred in 1407. Christian Rosencreuz is the legendary, possibly allegorical founder of the Rosicrucian order. So the Asar Set Society, including Jabari, is following a possible allegorical character named Rosencrucianberg, who was a German doctor who started the Rosicrucian order. But we want to talk about John Belair Newbro. At least John Newbro was a real person. You're following an allegorical character. Now here is the symbol of the Rosicrucian cross. Here's the rosy red cross. Here's the Ankh and the rose cross showing you their affiliation. The rose cross is a cross within a cross at its center, which is usually red, gold, or white. It symbolizes the teachings of Western esoteric tradition with Christian tenets, Jabari. It didn't say Kemetic tenets, but Christian tenets, Jabari. So technically, the Shrine of Ma'at are undercover Rosicrucians disguised as Kemetic Christians. Let's dig deeper and see who the god of this Rosicrucian order is. Kabbalistic Order of the Rose Cross. Kabbalistic Order of the Rose Cross version of the Rosy Cross, the Hebrew Tetragrammaton, divine name. On the arms of the cross of the Pentagrammaton in the inner pentagram. So not only is Jabari following a Christian Rosicrucian order, but the god of that order is Yahweh. So show me where is Ra? Where is Ptah? Where is Amun-Ra? And not only that, pay attention to the top of the temple of the Rosicrucian church. Look at this. You got the Hebrew God Yahweh at the top of the church of the Rosicrucian order. Why ain't Ra there? Why ain't Ptah there? Why ain't Amun-Ra there? You got the God of Israel at the head of an organization you are associated with, Jabari. And notice the hand coming out of the cloud. That is the white hand of the God of Israel, Yahweh. What are we talking about here? The symbol of the Rosy Cross played a substantial role within the system of Thelema as developed by Aleister Crowley. What are we talking about here?
3 minutes.
Aleister Crowley. Thelema is a Western esoteric occult spiritual philosophy and a new religious movement founded in the early 1900s by Aleister Crowley. And the Thelema was inspired by the Golden Dawn founded by Samuel Liddell McGregor Mather. This is the symbol of the Golden Dawn. You see that same red cross that's affiliated with the Rosicrucian order, that's affiliated with the Asar Set Society. What are we talking about here? Samuel Mathers. Mathers, in the Egyptian custom, performed a ritual of Isis in the rites of the Golden Dawn. He was raised as a master mason on January 30th, 1878. So here you have Aleister Crowley applying the Rosicrucian order to his occult called Thelema, inspired by the Golden Dawn Rose Cross, which is rooted in the Rosicrucian order. And look at all the rosy red crosses affiliated with. Look at that. And the Asar Set Society is affiliated with this. You have the Asar Set Society, the Kemetic Tree of Life. The Kemetic Tree of Life formed the base of Cosmogony. This is supposed to be their Cosmogony of ancient system. Where did this Asar Set Society get this idea from? They got it from the Jews. Again, the Jewish Kabbalah. The Kabbalah is an esoteric school of thought in Jewish mysticism. Its origin in medieval Judaism to its adaptation in Western esotericism. So again, the Sa.neter Society, which is a Rosicrucian body, which Jabari is a part of, is rooted in Jewish mysticism and the Western European esoteric knowledge being the Rosicrucian order. And here's a cross comparing where they got it from, the Jews. Rosicrucian influence on the Masonic order. According to John Bayard, two Rosicrucian-inspired Masonic rites emerged toward the end of the 18th century, rectified Scottish rites, widespread in Central Europe, where there was a strong presence in the golden rosy cross, the ancient and accepted Scottish rites, first practiced in France, in which the 18th degree is called the Knight of the Rose Cross. Here's the 18th degree Knight of the Rose Cross, and what you see, that same cross you see affiliated with the Sa.neter Society. Not only that, it said, look, Rosicrucian was supposedly born by purifying Egyptian mysteries with the new higher teachings of early Christianity. Notice it stated about purifying Egyptian mysteries. Who revised the Egyptian mysteries? They did. So the Shrine of Ma'at, the Shrine of Ptah, the Sa.neter Society is nothing more than Western Rosicrucian order, a modified version of Jewish mysticism disguised under Egyptian apparel. Here you have the Rosy Red Brothers associated with this Rosicrucian order. You have the first Egyptian gay Kemetic high priest. Do you know about him, Jabari? He speaks 7 fluent languages. He's the first openly gay Ifa Bilal in Kemetic high priest. He was initiated in the rainforests of Nigeria. His focus is the teaching of the golden beetle of Ra, a gay spiritual system. So here you have the first openly gay Kemetic high priest teaching the golden beetle of Ra. Is Jabari associated with the golden beetle of Ra? I'm just curious. So now you have your idea and understanding of Egypt stands on the shoulders of these European Egyptologists who framed your idea of Kemetic science, and that they should first gave you the book of the Kemetic Coptic grammar. Samuel Bircher gave you the English translation of the papyrus of Nepsinian and Enna. George Zoga gave you the direction the glyphs are read. Carl Richard gave you the translation of a complete copy of the Book of the Dead. Maspero gave you the first editor translator of the Pyramid text. William Spiegelberg gave you the lexicon of the lexicograph of demonic script. So with that being said, the same way the Europeans gave you cast the Bible is the same way these European Jews gave you cast the Tanakh is the same way these Europeans gave you niggas the Egyptology, and I'm done. And then we have a list of European Egypt who, and you want to talk about one white man.
I thought he was going to get to 25 minutes, sa.neter.
It's all good. I got it out. But we want to talk about one white man, but you have all these Europeans who influence your modern idea of Egyptology. I'm done.
This brother told you that a Sa.neter is a Rosicrucian group. Why? Why is he saying that? Because they have an Ankh? Because they're using an Ankh and the Sa.neter Society is using an Ankh. He says that I must be working with the Shriners because my organization is called the Shrine of Ma'at. By the way, you should also know we actually inside the shrine actually call our shrine Kara Ma'at. But you wouldn't know what that was in English. He's using the worst possible slippery logic. And I'm not even exactly sure how anyone would possibly believe that anything he just said made any sense. So let's start from here. One of the things that Selah thinks he should do is he believes that simply because Europeans were able to reconstruct the Kemetic language, that means, listen to this slippery logic, that the Kemetic language is European. That because they were reconstructing the language, that it's their language. This is really bizarre logic. This comes from history.com. 8 facts about ancient Egyptians hieroglyphic writing. And I want you to just see here, hieroglyphic writing gradually died out after the Ptolemies. By the way, these are Greek rulers of Kemet, after Kemet is taken over by foreign people, who are of Macedonian descent, began to rule Egypt in the 1300s BC. Greeks replaced Egyptian as the official court language. About 600 years later, the Christian Roman Emperor Theodosius approved a decree that banned the pagan religion, he calls it, from being practiced in Kemet. By the time the last known hieroglyphic writing was carved into the Philae Temple in 394 AD, there were probably few Egyptian sculptors who could even understand what they were being asked to carve in the walls. It is the Europeans that extinguished the Kemetic language. The Europeans who were pushing the Christian tradition. The Christian tradition, if you read your Christian Bible, you'll see Jehovah. I guess that's the name of your deity too, huh? I mean, I want you to understand the slippery logic that he's using. Europeans extinguished the Kemetic language. And if Europeans are actually able to rebuild the Kemetic language, that means that the Kemetic language is theirs. That's almost like me stealing your wallet and giving you $5 and then you calling me your daddy. I mean, that don't make any sense. Selah is not making any sense. By the way, you should know that one of the reasons why the Kemetic language was able to be deciphered is because of the Rosetta Stone. You've heard of this before. What year was it found? It was discovered. This is from the Oriental Institute in the University of Chicago. By the way, these are real sources. I don't know what they are using at all. In July 1799, the stone was found in the city of Rosetta, modern El Rashid. I want you to understand that was 1799. What else was happening in 1799? He's saying, where's the Congo Negro? By the way, he also said the Congo is up the street from Kemet. The Congo is probably 5,000 miles from Kemet. So he shows his ignorance of Africa in his subservience to a white Manhattan dentist who wrote a book in 1881 and lied about it routinely. He is insulting the African in service of this European doctor. Why your ancestors are ashamed of you. Let's continue. Because the Shrine of Ma'at and the Sarasat Society use the Ankh, an ancient symbol, and because Europeans are actually also using the Ankh, this means that we must be in European tradition. I'm so confused by what he's saying. It just doesn't make any sense at all. Are you suggesting that the Europeans, who the Rosicrucians and the Shriners, developed the Ankh that we're using? Or are they also appropriating something that comes from ancient Africa? Once again, just as Europeans are actually the ones that were able to reconstruct the language that they extinguished, now we see them using symbols from that ancient African place. And Selah wants you to believe that the Africans didn't do it, the Europeans did. Has this brother ever even seen, I'm not even talking about taking a class on history, seen a documentary? Speaking loud doesn't make you right. And everyone in the room, especially the sa.neter TV Studios audience, knows that what you said is ridiculous. It makes no sense whatsoever. By the way, let me get back to where I was at the end of my presentation. How can Nubra write the Oahpe automatically if the spirits and angels told him to copy images from other books? Why didn't they just give him the images? He wasn't writing it, right? They were giving him information. This is what he says in his letter. For 50 weeks, this continued every morning, half an hour or before sunrise, and then it ceased. And I was told to read and publish the book Oahpe. The peculiar drawings in Oahpe were made with pencil in the same way. Wait a minute. So he's saying that some of his writings were given to him by the angels. But look at what the angels do when they come to Kemet. A few of the drawings I was told to copy from other books, such as Saturn, the Egyptian ceremonies, etc. So wait a minute. This divine force, maybe he got tired? Maybe she got tired? And they said, yeah, I don't want to explain that to you. Just go look at another book. What? By the way, here's some of his drawings from ancient Kemet. Why does he have the Masonic compass and square there? What is he doing? He's grabbing everything and sticking it together. That image of a guy fighting a lion, where is that from? The Heru Behudet, or the winged sun disk in the middle, By the way, I said Heru Behudet or Winged Sun Disk because you wouldn't know what Heru Behudet is, just like I say Shrine of Ma'at in English. I'm not sure if you understand what you're saying. At this point, this is like silly time. But that's the only thing here that is strictly Kemetic. How about this drawing? Is that supposed to be the judgment scene? What are we looking at? The heads of the deities are all over the place. By the way, he has Anpu with 2 knives at the scales. This is the judgment scene. Not only did the angels ask him to copy from the book, he copied it poorly. Why? Because he's a charlatan who knows virtually nothing. If the divine force was giving him this information, he would actually be able to draw it properly. Is that proper? Family, I want you to understand that this is not something that makes sense. By the way, I also heard, I'm not sure exactly who said this, but one of the presenters tried to say that the Cosmon, the tradition of Oahpe, actually gives us time. It's like they've not read anything about ancient Kemet. I've read the Oahpe book. It was a snooze, a bore, and I laughed at it. But you haven't read anything about actually ancient Kemet. Did you know? This is from the Metropolitan Museum. This is from the Metropolitan Museum. Did you know it says here that the daily cycle in Kemet was divided into 24 hours, 12 hours of the day and 12 hours of the night? And you'll also see down here that the Egyptians had developed a civil calendar composed of 12 months of 30 days each, 360 days. And then they had what the Europeans later called Epagomino days, 5 days out of the general calendar. That means that they were the ones that gave you your 365-day year and your 20-hour day and even your 12 months. And you think that Oahpe is the one that is explaining time? Why, you couldn't even sit here tonight were it not for your African ancestors. Who are you maligning tonight? Who are offended by you tonight? Because you are trying to rock with a white dentist from Manhattan whose family owned your family. What's wrong with you? Have you lost yourself that badly? Why must you still look for the white savior? Why? And you think that when you yell, you can make things make sense. And you can't even do things that actually fit into some really basic logic. Because Europeans helped to rediscover the Kemetic language. It's their language. What? Are you arguing that it is Europeans that created the Kemetic language? Because we can find a European society that uses the English word shrine, that means that Jabari's shrine, which apparently he's never watched anything I've ever done, actually is based on what the Shriners are doing. What? By that logic, then I guess you're not part of the Oahpe tradition. You are actually a Hebrew because your deity is called Jehovah. No, wait a minute. Maybe your deity is Thor. Maybe he's Apollo. Maybe he's Asar. You don't know what the hell you're talking about. This makes no sense. I'm not sure whether to school you or laugh at you. Laughing at you would be offensive. So I'll apologize because I certainly did laugh at you. I certainly did. I don't even understand how you think that you can actually match with this. Look at what the Greeks said about ancient Kemet. This is Herodotus. The art of healing is with them divided up. So each physician treats one ailment and no more. Egypt is full of physicians, some treating diseases of the eyes, others of the head, others of the teeth, others of the stomach. This is what the Greeks, who very late in ancient Kemet were able to see about their connections to the sciences. Homer says, in Egypt, the men are more skilled in medicine than in humankind. I want you to understand that when you are talking about ancient Kemet, you are talking about a tradition that is way beyond your comprehension. By the way, you can actually see Jehuti, the deity here, putting the ankh to a deity's nose. I guess that means that Jehuti must be European. What kind of logic is that? It doesn't even make any sense, brother. Here you're looking at some of the world's first recorded doctors. Imhotep, who was also an architect and engineer, a master of the sciences. And Hesi-Ra, the world's first recorded dentist. I'm sure none of them would have tried to argue that the world was based on a vortice. None of them would have argued that the sun doesn't transmit heat. Is that what you really believe? So why is it that you get hotter when you're out in the sun? Do you get hotter at night? I don't even understand. A child would be able to explain this. But you've allowed this European doctor to so thoroughly confuse you that you can't even fathom something that a child would be able to understand. Here you're seeing the world's first dentures being developed in ancient Kemet. You can actually move forward and you can actually see this is the world's earliest surgical papyrus that actually describes, probably written by Imhotep, that describes the cures for 200 medical conditions. When it comes to science, when it comes to mathematics, when it comes to medicine, how do you think you could compare this to this dude who is clearly plagiarizing things poorly? Poorly. Really? Is that where you've gone, African? Well, you've lost your mind. You've lost your mind. I'm not even really going to necessarily. By the way, here's proof that the Kemetic people were using morphine in surgeries. I mean, the sorts of things that ancient Kemetic people did long before the grandfather of the grandfather of the grandfather of the person who wrote your book. And the fact that because I guess you read it and it sounds like it sounds good to you, none of you have studied science. Did you actually see what Asar put forward? Do you think you could actually sit in the same room with Asar and Ka? One of us is on college level and the other one is in kindergarten. And you think that you can, he actually showed you that he studied this. And because you're regaled by the words of a white Manhattan dentist, now all of a sudden you think that you can rap with this, you can mix with this, you can insult your ancestors. How did that happen? Look at the carving of the surgical devices on the Temple of Kamambo. Many of these devices are still used today. How about the world's first prosthetic device? We're seeing excellence in the sciences. That's what Kemet is known for. Did you know that ancient Kemet, by the way, if you're going to study the universe, it's not going to just be science. You're going to take mathematics, right? You do understand that mathematics is necessary as well, right? Did you know that the first mathematic texts come to us from ancient Kemet? And you want us to rock with a man that doesn't know how far the sun away is, how far the sun is away from us, the size, the circumference of the sun, and doesn't think the sun transmits heat. Why, here you're seeing that during the reign of Amenemhat, a man that always is depicted with these thick locks, that during the reign of Amenemhat, we actually believe that a scribe created the first mathematical papyrus that actually describes what we would call algebra today. And you may know that when you're studying algebra, one of the major things you attempt to do is actually find the value of things that are not present. You're searching for X or Y. Listen to how the scribe Ames describes that. He says that this papyrus contains the accuracy for inquiring, thank you, sa.neter, for inquiring into things and the knowledge of all things, mysteries, all secrets. Can you see how he's describing searching for the value of X or Y? Your ancestors gave this to you. And you think because you can find Europeans that defiled your ancient traditions, that extinguished your ancient languages, you're going to give them credit for those very traditions and languages. How dare you malign the name of Ra.nefer Amen, the founder and head of Asaraset Society, and say that they're Rosicrucian? Have you ever even been to an Asaraset temple? Have you? I have. And no, I'm not a member of Asaraset. I'm not. But how could you make that error? Because you see an Ankh in one place and an Ankh in another place, that means that he's a Rosicrucian? Because there are some that say that he might have started as a Rosicrucian? Well, guess what, brother? You are in kindergarten because that's where you started. Unfortunately, your ability to fathom these concepts has not evolved past that stage either. I don't understand how you've gotten this so confused. I must say to you, family, if you leave these folks where they are, they will lead you astray time and time again, because they have actually thought that they have found their white savior and that you should follow him too. Even though we can prove that what he's saying is scientifically incorrect, we can prove that he's grabbed things from all over the world, we can prove that his time frames are wrong, we can prove that the names are wrong, we can prove that his drawings of people are wrong, we can even prove that he thinks that black people are the ground people who are evil, who are lazy. And they want you to follow this. Why I told you that the tradition of the Oahpe was going to get a full vetting today. You had better ask sa.neter not to put this on YouTube, because the only people that are going to watch it are you and the other brothers that are on this channel right now. You're the only ones that will be left in the Oahpe tradition. You think if I go to the Oahpe church in the Bronx and in Brooklyn and I tell them this, they would still be there? They don't know. And unfortunately, neither do you. The difference is you're the one that's teaching, and at least they're trying to learn. I hope your ancestors rescue you, and I hope that you find your way back to the traditions of ancient Africa. I mean, unless you think you should get some cavities cleaned, because that he might be able to do well.
Time.
Let's rock.
Okay, y'all. Hold on, Cosmo. Do everybody understand? Let me make sure.
You're going to tell us who you're directing your question to, or what are you going to just put it out there?
Cosmon Kruger going to start off asking questions and receiving questions.
All right, we got an echo, y'all, from somebody. Y'all got echoes going on, and that usually be Cosmon.
It's not.
Everybody got to go on mute. Okay, everybody go on mute. Cosmon, time will start when you complete your first question.
All right.
And if you want to ask a particular person a question,
I'll ask a particular person. I'll call them out.
Right. There you go.
Right. First thing, Jabari. Right. We noticed when Selah asked you the question, do you know King Semabara, that you ducked that question. Do you know this man?
I don't believe that anyone asked me any questions. I want you to understand that I have heard. Of course, I do not know him, and nobody in the Kemetic tradition does either.
You're done. Be quiet. Did you graduate from the house?
Is he going to be foul too, sa.neter?
Hold on, be quiet.
Time.
I just all you got to do is answer
no, brother. You got to be respectful in the questions, brother.
I am being respectful.
I told you my way is better.
I'm just told him be quiet.
You can't do all that be quiet stuff. This is not the kiddie.
All right,
playground.
well then I'm done.
We are professionals.
I'm done. I'm fine with his answer.
All right, we're gonna start it off. We're gonna take it back to the top. I'm gonna start this thing all over. In the same way with them, they will have to be respectful towards you and towards your team.
Can I ask a question?
Respectful. Yes, ask a question, Paul.
Again.
I thought he was done.
Wait. No. They have 20 minutes, Napa.
Oh, to ask all their questions? Or I thought we were going to go back and forth. Okay.
No. All right, Cosmon, the time will start when you ask your first question, when you complete.
Okay. We noticed that you were ducking the question that was asked in Selah's round. Do you know King Semaba? the highest Kemetic priest in the world. Do you know him? And being that y'all in the same city, that'd be odd if you didn't. Do you know him?
I've been in the Kemetic tradition for over 30 years. Nobody knows him.
Okay. Did you graduate from the House of the Golden Beetle?
Please, brother. I am the chief priest of the Shrine of Ma'at. I came through the Shrine of Ptah. I actually started my study in the Star System.
I'll take that. You didn't answer the question, right? So all I asked was, did you graduate out of the House of Golden Beetle? So you didn't.
If I don't know him, how could I have graduated out of this?
Hold on. We're done. We heard your question. We heard it. We heard you answer. You didn't say no. Okay. So what you claim, Jabari, this is another question to you, that you read Oahpe over 30 years ago. And since it's so crazy and zany, as you said, you couldn't obviously forget what was in it, right? So tell us who Shinvat is and what she does. This is in the very first book. You ain't even got to do nothing but turn one page and it'll tell you what Shinvat is.
I will not pretend.
Hold on. Tell us who Shinvat is and tell us what she does.
Can I say to you, there's no way that I would even pretend that I remember everything I read 30 years ago.
All right. Well, then
there's no way I would remember everything I read. The book is over 1,000 pages. So
thank you. It's over 1,500 actually. But thank you. You did what I'm talking about. So you lying. You didn't read it. This is something. If you opened the first page, you would know what I'm talking about, right? So you said that the Asar Aset Society has nothing to do with being a Rosicrucian body. My question is, does the Asar Aset Society webpage tie itself to Rosicrucian and say it is a Rosicrucian body?
The Asar Aset webpage does not say that it is a Rosicrucian body.
All right.
It doesn't.
Okay, thank you. It does. But and we showed it in the source. Go back and look.
You didn't show that.
No. I'm not talking to you. You're done. Okay. Quick question: is incest in your creation myth?
I think that we should recognize that at the very beginning of all time, everyone has the same parents. So by definition, in these creation stories, there would have to be incest.
So
that's
a yes.
Because if you have the same parents, then it would be incest.
So that's a yes.
Yes, in every creation story in the world.
Why?
I just explained why.
Why?
I just explained why.
Say it again.
At the very beginning of time, when we are describing the first humans, they both are created by the same parent or parents. That would mean by definition, there would have to be what you pretend to call incest. However, I want to be really clear.
Thank you. Do you practice incest?
Do I practice incest?
Yes.
I'm really close to saying something really insulting to you, brother.
It's okay.
I'm really close to saying something insulting to you.
Just answer the question. Why are you
I'm really close to saying something insulting to you.
So what?
Well, you are my brother, and your mom was at my house. So yeah, I practice incest.
Be quiet.
What you want me to say?
Control your man.
What you want me to say? How dare you?
Just say no. Say yes.
I answered the question.
Whatever the truth is, say the truth.
I answered the question.
All right.
How dare you?
Yeah. Okay, so why don't you practice incest when your gods do?
Well, first of all, I'm not a divine being in the sense of the first.
All right, you done.
I'm a human being.
Okay, you done. We got enough. Can you let's talk to Asar. No, as a matter of fact, let's talk to Napa. Hello, Napa. Thank you for being here. You dig what I'm saying? You look beautiful tonight. Can you explain, Miss Napa, since you jumped up here with them? Okay. You dig what I'm talking about? Can you explain to us how teaching our children about incest and homosexuality benefits them scientifically? Go.
Okay. Before I start, sa.neter, I told you your technique or your way is not as good, because people should have at least a minute to answer a question, especially questions like this, instead of being cut off, said, oh, I had enough of you, so hopefully I get to answer this question. The cosmogony and the cosmology of ancient religions all have, like Jabari said, people who are related. It's not teaching incest. It's teaching how things began, because we all have a common ancestor. So that's the answer. These stories don't teach incest.
No, the question was, maybe you didn't hear the question. The question was, how does teaching our children about incest and homosexuality benefit them scientifically? How does it benefit them to teach them?
Okay, well, I answered your question, but I wanted to say this, that the Oahpe leader, he actually was a 33rd degree Freemason. A 33rd degree Freemason.
Hold on.
Who they are tied to child everywhere right now. So
thank you.
Nepal, you got to unmute the hippo icon at the top so the people can hear it. The hippo icon.
All right. Okay.
He was a 33rd degree Freemason.
Hey, Jabari, another question
for Jabari. Talk about incest.
This is another question for Jabari.
They're raping children to this day. A lot of them. Secret societies.
Come on, son.
All right, you can't talk, Nepal. You can't talk, Nepal. You got.
I just want to match the energy.
Okay, I'm just saying. Come on now. We just have a little bit more
time. Go ahead.
You're wasting time. Okay, so we didn't get an answer for how it benefits them scientifically to teach them about incest and homosexuality. I want y'all to notice that. Jabari, you make a claim that the neters are not literal, right? Did the ancients say that they weren't literal?
Yes.
Can you prove it? How?
Well, are you going to give me time to prove it, or are you going to just
ahead, sir.
Well, one of the ways we know they're not literal is actually
I'm asking you, did the ancients say they weren't literal?
I already said they don't take them literally. And then you asked me if I could prove it.
Yes.
I told you that they don't see them as literal.
Weren't literal. That the ancients.
I've answered that question. And then you asked me, can I prove it?
Okay,
and I said yes.
Go ahead.
I said yes.
Go ahead.
Here's an easy way you can prove it. When you look at the judgment scene, you'll actually see that the person who was deceased, who was actually eligible to go into heaven, becomes Asar. Their name is literally listed as Asar. So that if you become the deity, how could the deity be literal? Because Jabari will never be Cosmon, thankfully, and Cosmon will never be Jabari, much more thankfully.
But you're comparing men versus men against men versus God. Your God is supposed to be able to do everything. So you're admitting, I asked the question, show that the ancients were saying they weren't literal. That's not what it says. So you admit that you made that up, and that is your subjective opinion.
Would you like me to show you the image where you can see it?
No.
I can read it for you.
We showed it. We know.
I can read it for you.
Hold on, be quiet, brother. We know what the image is. You just applied your own subjective opinion.
No, I did not.
Okay. This is a question to any of y'all. Can any of you build a pyramid?
Yes, but not the Great Pyramid.
Have you built one? So there's no objective proof that you can.
You want me to build one right now? Watch. Can y'all see me? This is how easy it is.
That's not a pyramid.
That's a pyramid, dude.
Okay.
You don't know your shapes?
Okay.
That's your shape.
That was simple. That's not even a
exactly.
pyramid.
It was
That's not
simple.
even a triangle.
Very simple.
Pyramid has 4 sides. Okay. But okay. There's another one. So you can't build a pyramid.
We just built
what does a pyramid do?
A pyramid is for a couple things. One, it serves as a tomb. The other thing is it's the stairs emulated in one of the amulets that serve to get to heaven, to the pet. It says, I burn incense to build the ladder for the pet.
Okay, you said it was a tomb, right? You said it was a tomb. Has there been any bodies ever found in the pyramid?
There are.
And who is it? Who was it? If it's a tomb, there had to be a body found in there.
Khufu's name
what body
is
did they find?
Number
in
one, Khufu's name is on it. But understand
I
that
said what body?
Understand that the bodies are moved away, but the way that you know it's a tomb, well, you know it's a tomb is because it has a cod door.
All right, what is okay?
Listen, the north, so that his soul can travel.
You gotta move on. You gotta move on.
What is the pyramid's initial purpose?
I just told you.
What?
I just told you. It's the ladder to the heavens.
To do what?
It's in the shape of the ladder to the heavens, showing
it's in
that
the shape of the ladder to the heavens. So what do you do? What is its initial purpose?
Its initial purpose was a tomb, and that's why you have a cod door.
Okay, but we ain't found no bodies. Okay. Let me. Here we go. Can you activate a pyramid? Since y'all commission priest and y'all
what text is that
y'all got all the, hold on. Y'all got all the Egyptian science. Can you turn one on? Can you activate it?
Show us the text that says we can do that.
Okay. So
it doesn't exist. You're making stuff up.
The question is, so just say no. You don't know how to.
No, just say that's not in the text. You're making stuff up.
Can you name any machinery used in the moving of the great stones?
Yes,
of the pyramid.
The giant.
Can you name it and show it?
You want me to show it? Here, let me pull up the picture.
Yeah, show us the machinery used. How did they cut? How did they cut the rocks?
No, you said machinery, so I'm gonna show you the giant.
Show us the machinery.
I'm gonna show you the
tools.
Brother, you gonna let me tell you so we can get to it? I'm gonna show you the giant.
Hurry up. You wasting my time. Pause my time, sa.neter.
Pause his time.
Because he wasting
no
time.
time being paused. No time. There's no time.
All right, next question. Next question.
Okay.
All right, you wasted your time on that. Next question.
By the way, here it goes right here.
All right, hold on.
Listen. You see that giant sled right there?
Man.
You got to move on. You got to move on. You got to move on.
Do you know the year, exactly the year that the pyramid was built?
No, that's not relevant.
Okay, so no. All right. Do any of y'all know anything about the pyramid that can be objectively proved?
Yeah, we proved that it's a tomb. We proved that it points towards the northern star, was built as a tomb, and we also proved that it's the ladder.
How did you prove that?
How did we prove it? Because there's a cod door on the side.
How did you prove it's a tomb? You just said that.
No. Can I add something since you said any of us? Also, they're aligned with the cosmos, like Betelgeuse. The constellations are aligned perfectly with the three great pyramids.
Okay, so what is that?
Because we practiced astronomy and we knew about the.
Well, this is a debate about cosmogony, not astronomy.
So why are you asking about
and cosmology?
No,
brother.
no. I'm asking
and cosmology.
Proved about.
You're asking about pyramids.
What I'm asking you, what can be objectively proved?
I just told you, my friend.
There are a number of things that can be objectively proved.
Go ahead, Jabari. Is it not connected that they're aligned with the astronomy and the constellations, the Great Pyramids?
Yes,
it is.
And also with the cardinal points. Yeah. And we're also able to prove exactly who built many of them. We also are able to prove who they were built for. We were able to prove, by the way, one of the machines we're able to use.
Thank you.
Okay.
In your creation myth, right?
Yes.
In your creation myth, why does Atum swallow his own semen?
Well, he doesn't actually. He says he does it. He swallows it with his shadow. His shadow in the text later is Tefnut, the female that he created. So if you didn't know the mouth he poured the semen into, it was a female's. And he's talking about her vaginal portion. But you didn't read the rest of the text.
Actually, I did. Hold on. Wait.
Nope.
You didn't know that, though.
Wait, be quiet. Be quiet. Actually, I actually showed in the debate that it into his own mouth. All right. So as a male, how does Atum birth Shu and Tefnut?
Well, he creates Tefnut from sneezing, and I want to say he creates Shu from spitting or vice versa.
Spitting what?
It's spittle. from your mouth.
He spit his nut. He spit his own nut out his mouth. Just so y'all know. Can
He
you show us
sneezed.
any male entity?
No,
Listen,
he sneezed.
Listen.
And he spit.
Listen. All you got to do is listen, not be triggered.
Okay.
Can you show us any male entity in all creation that gives birth to live children?
Any what?
What?
Right? In your creation story, right?
Go ahead.
Can you show us, right? In objectivity, any male entity whatsoever in all creation that gives birth to live children?
I can. The seahorse. The seahorse carries the infants in the babies or the eggs inside of his belly, and then he gives birth to the babies. The seahorse.
Actually, no offense, but that's wrong. The mother, the female lays the egg. The father
yes, it's implanted into the male. It's implanted into the male.
So that's wrong.
You just said give birth.
That's wrong.
You said give birth.
The female lays eggs
into the male. Into the male.
No,
the fertilized eggs are put into the male.
They actually
also have some snakes that birth eggs that are male.
You just asked give birth. You said give birth.
Question.
You didn't say how.
Is your God a transsexual?
It's neuter now, so it's
not.
No.
Okay. How can you prove that?
Because
a transsexual is one who actually changes medically through surgery their genitalia from one gender to another.
Okay,
that's not something that you see in any. That's not something you see in any of the allegorical texts.
Okay. I'm glad you said that, because in your creation myth, Ra changes into Sekhmet, a female, right?
Show it to me.
Explain.
Show it to me.
Explain.
Show it to me.
Why does Ra sex change?
You are wrong.
But
you're just wrong.
Male and female. Jehovah.
You're just wrong. No, but listen, he's just wrong.
Yeah.
That doesn't happen.
I know.
Yeah. He's just wrong.
Which creation myth are you talking about? It doesn't happen.
So watch this, Cosmon. Sekhmet actually puts Ra on her shoulders and changes into Het Heru, another female, and lifts him above the heavens.
That's in one of your stories. But in another story, Ra changes into a beetle. He goes onto a boat.
I thought he changed into a lioness that ate up.
No. That comes later. That comes later.
That's the story.
Hold on.
What story are you referring to?
He changes into Sekhmet.
He messed it up.
But we're not going to even deal with that no more. Listen, all y'all got to do, mind you, there's 5 stories. They don't even agree which story they talking about. Right? There's
the one that asked which story.
Hold on, be quiet. There's 2 from Hermopolis, right?
There's 6.
1 from Memphis, right? And there's 2 more. So that depending on which story you're talking about, yes, Ra does turn into Sekhmet.
Which one?
A female lion.
Which one?
What is the scientific relevance of bisexuality?
That does not happen, brother. You're just wrong. You're just wrong.
Okay, all right, thank you.
You're presupposing something that's incorrect and you want us to answer it.
What is the scientific relevance of bisexuality?
Why is there bisexuals? I mean, you would kind of have to ask Jehovah. He made Adam and Eve. Eve came from his rib. A man gives birth to a woman. That's not in our story. Like,
by the way,
you asking us?
Hold on, okay. Hold on. First of all, that ain't in our story neither. So I don't know what you're talking about.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Why is homosexuality taught as if it is scientific in Commission literature?
It is not taught that way.
You want to give me 42 laws?
Why is it in your creation?
It is not. It is not in the. It is not in the
creation. In the Big Bang.
Wait. Let's just say to you, you are wrong. That's it.
All right, you can say that.
You're wrong.
Right. Jabari, what year is it per the Commission calendar?
I think, and I might actually get it wrong, but I think we could probably argue that it is 52-24, someplace around there.
You're wrong, but
yeah, you know the calendar better me, brother.
Yeah. Hey, listen, the funny
Right,
part is
right.
you call yourself a historian and don't have a historical timeline to lean on. Okay.
I showed you the timeline.
Hold on, be quiet. Be quiet. What year was the year the calendar was created? Nepal.
Oh, the Kemetic calendar? I have no clue.
All right, thank you. Why doesn't, and this is for everybody. Why doesn't
Time. All right. Let's go. Who want to start the question off?
Who wants to start on the Kemetic side, folks?
I really would like to start.
Okay.
He's saying on this theme of like, I don't know, sexual. Okay, let's start with New Bro and his let's get real. Let's get back on track and his lies about
Turn your camera on, Cosmo.
Go quickly.
Okay, let me ask you a question. Just why was New Bro a part of the spiritualist group called the Domain, and that group had a huge sex scandal? A lot of the leading members, he was a part of that group. Why did they have a huge sex scandal in the 19th century? I'm not talking about ancient. Why was there a huge sex scandal that your leader, your writer was a part of?
Who are you talking to?
I'm talking to, I guess, anybody that wants to answer.
Turn on your camera. Turn on your
The group is called the Domain. There's a spiritualist group in New York. Huge sex scandal. They had to disband, or he actually estranged and tried to move himself away from it. Why was he a part of a group that had a sex scandal?
They don't know that answer. No
Okay.
First of all,
why was this? Okay, this will be me, and then I'll okay. Moving on. Let me ask you another question, and then I'm gonna hand it over to my teammates. Why do you brothers? Why do you brothers try to hide the fact?
You're not gonna let him
Wait, he said to stop.
Come on, man.
Why do you brothers never address the fact that New Bro's uncle not only owned slaves, but actually had sex with them and gave them children that were also slaves?
Well, first of all, you have to prove that. That's one.
I'm going to prove it. You're done. Don't talk. Remember, you like to cut people off. Stop. His name is Wellesley. It's New Bro's mother, Elizabeth. Well, I'm sorry. Oh my gosh. Let me get the name. His name is, God dang. It's his mother's father. It's his mother's brother. I'm getting it right now. The name is
incest. Goodness.
Here it is. It is, the last name is, God, I'm looking it up. Paulsley, Pollsley. That is her maiden name, and that is her brother. Why did he own several black women as slaves and have sex with them and give them children? And you never bring it up.
Okay, first of all, can you prove that any of those people are enslaved? And two, can you prove any of them are?
You can't ask a question with a question, brother. You can't ask a question.
Hold on. Wait.
Okay, no, hold on. You wait. sa.neter, I want him to stop talking. I want him to stop talking, please. sa.neter, stop talking. I showed you the slave names. The names are in the slaves in the census. The census, the 1840 U.S. Federal Census for Wellsburg, Brooke County, Virginia. 1850 U.S. Federal Census Slave Schedule for District 38, Mason County, Virginia. 1860 U.S. Federal Census Slave Schedule, District 2, Mason County, Virginia. He had a 40-year-old black woman who he had sex with and gave a 17 and a 4-year-old boy to. He had sex with a black woman who he gave a 3-year-old boy to.
You made him question you. Now, come on.
No, I'm asking you. Why do you never address it? And then I'll hand it over to the brothers. Why do you act like this isn't a big deal? And I'm done asking.
Crickets.
Okay.
Can we talk now?
Yeah, go ahead, brother. Answer.
Right. One, that's a lie. That's just one. And two, there is no proof. There is no proof. JBN had none. We don't care what his mama had, what his daddy had. We don't care about none of that. It's about we don't care about JBN.
Right,
And
so
the proof is, hold on. The proof is JBN.
All right, that's it. They want to move on.
You're running away from it. So my brother Sailor Shalom, my brother Sailor Shalom, my brother Sailor Shalom. I'm about to run up on you right now. You made like you got really hyped and inspirational. Where all the Bantu? Where all the Bantu? Right? As if our Congo brothers and Ding brothers aren't found in the coffins. But I have a question. Do you stand on that? That there were no African speakers of the language that were black that contributed to the hieroglyphics?
What I showed specifically, I started from the 1600s, and I showed a list of Europeans coming from the 1600s.
I said
on
yes
down.
or no, because we seen your list. Is it a yes or no, brother?
What was the question again?
Are you saying that Africans did not contribute to the decipherment of hieroglyphics? Yes or no? So now you're scared to stand on it. So
No. I'm not scared to stand on it.
Well, say it. You ain't got all day. Say it, brother.
Can you show me?
You don't tell him what to
Show
say.
me a list. Show me a list. I showed you. I'm writing down a list.
No, you can't ask him a question. He's asking y'all the question.
Watch this.
Yeah, I'm answering this question.
No, because he's not even answering. He's just sitting there.
Just move, Asar, because he's not. They're not
so
able.
Watch this. Dul Nun al-Misri and Ibn Wasiya. Dul Nun al-Misri is a Nubian who helped in the decipherment. He's before them because he's in medieval Islamic world. So Kirchner, whoever, even Ackerblad is not before him. Did you not know your African history?
Did he? What did he decipher?
Here you can see it right here. You want me to share my screen and show you?
Okay, don't know. He's trying. That's filibustering, brother. You should know he's trying to filibuster.
Y'all gotta stop.
Let's keep moving. No, let's keep moving.
Why y'all let them ask the question?
Why you
Because he a
schooling?
mess. He a mess, and cats keep jumping in. So let's go here further. How come you think the sun is hollow? And your guy who deciphered this for you said he thought it was hollow.
The sun. I showed him.
Show that he lying.
Yeah, we showed that the sun is a rotating gas.
You use science for that, but you're
no. We showed that in the Oahpe too. We
showed
showed that in the Oahpe too. Daryl Cosmo showed that in this round. Not only this. Hold up. Daryl Cosmo showed that in this round, and not only that, Daryl Cosmo is the only one who showed a scientific method to prove vortexes.
Incorrect.
Oh, y'all didn't show the model.
We showed the Big Bang.
Y'all didn't even go
down. The Big Bang got
Stop him.
A Jesuit.
You can stop him, Jabari.
Okay, he's done.
Now
he's done. Why y'all letting him filibuster? He's done.
Jabari is hard.
But now watch this. Watch this, because they've already their guy already said that the sun was hollow in the text. So
no, you go back and watch the debate now.
The last thing we want to get to, that brothers is cooked. Because y'all had Einstein right there.
So come on, man.
Okay, go ahead, my brother Jabari.
Y'all not moving like Cosmo. Cosmo know how to do it.
Okay,
yeah.
Folks, listen.
Punching on these boys. Get in there.
Are you aware? Wait, no, you're not supposed to be talking, Cosmo. You're not. Are you aware that the 32nd book of judgment in Cosmon dictates your day to be both male and female?
Thank you.
Are you aware of that?
Thank you.
Are you aware we don't have a day?
This is
no,
for
you
Cosmon.
can't ask a question, Cosmon.
Are you aware of it? Yes or no?
Read it.
I've asked you a yes or no answer. Are you aware of that?
We don't have a deity.
Next question.
Okay, so obviously he doesn't know.
Next.
Okay,
The whole
right.
Chronicles
That's okay.
behind it.
Can I also ask? Wait.
Wait.
Come on, guys. Don't do that. Really carefully. Why is it that in Nubro's design and description of the planets, he actually is missing several planets, and he does not understand that Venus is closer to the sun than the Earth? Why is it that Venus is not listed?
What?
This is for you, Cosmon.
You asking me a question now?
Yes.
Answer the question?
Brother, answer the question.
All righty.
Answer the question. Why is Venus not on the list of planets?
Okay. Are you sure it's not there?
I'm positive. Why is it not there, brother?
Ask him a question, Cosmon.
Answer the question.
You asking him a question?
I got him, sa.neter. I got him. I'm not worried about him. Answer the question.
It's on there.
He doesn't have an answer.
It's on
Okay,
there.
let's move.
It's on
Why
there.
is it
It's on
that
there.
we don't? Why
Hold on.
is it? No, you're not
hold on,
holding.
it's
You're
on
done.
there.
I'm not moving. I'm you're done. You're done. Why is it that the only black people in your book are the Droops, and they are depicted as evil and lazy and ground people? Why is it that that is described that way?
Because it's not. First of all, the people that you think are just Negroes, called the Druks, their fathers, the Ions, and their other fathers, the Asuans, their mothers, the Asuans, were both Negroidal too. Regardless of
But is it not clear? Okay, stop. Is it not clear that in the book of Cosmon it says the Ilhuns actually are white and yellow? Does it not say they're white and yellow?
Right
I
up
showed
under
you. I
there.
showed
Watch
you the
this.
source.
Watch this. Be quiet.
I'm
Right
not
up
being
under
quiet.
there.
You have to answer the question. Does it
Listen.
not say that they
Hold
are
on.
white? Brother, stop. No, I'm asking the questions. Does it not say that you're calling them their fathers are white and yellow? Does it not say that?
It also says that it's not what we call white men today. Right in the verse below what you're quoting.
Stop. Okay, that's done. All right.
Can I ask a quick question to him?
Here's
I
another
want to ask him a question.
No.
Cosmon,
It's not what you call modern day
Jabari,
white.
Listen,
They
please
right
be
in
quiet,
the book.
Cosmon.
Cosmon, man,
Cosmon,
what are you
silence.
doing, bro?
Cosmon, silence. What are you doing?
Yo, I'm gonna stop
Silence.
the time. I gotta stop the time for a minute. I
What
want
is
to
he
let y'all
doing?
know.
What are
I
you
want to let
doing?
y'all know. I want to let both sides know that questioning is a part of who wins the debate. So y'all can get up here in that crazy Cosmon, and you can get up here in that crazy foolish questions, but this determines who really wins the debate through your question and answer.
And
Go ahead.
All right, son. Let's move.
right now.
Let's move. You're stopping my flow, bro. Come on, let's do it.
Go
Let's
ahead.
do it. Okay. Apparently, your book just says that all of the languages started with Pan, not an African language, as science tells us, but Pan, a continent that fell. Why is it that your book does not describe an African language as the first language? Why is that? Okay, no answer.
Well,
okay, and I also want to know why. No, you're finished. You're finished, brother. I also would like to know why, brother, you're finished. I'd also like to know why we are told that the four great heads are China, India, Europe, and America. Aren't you offended that Africa is not included in that as one of the four great heads? Aren't you offended? Yes or no?
No, that's wrong. The four great heads are Africa, America, India, and Asia.
That's not in the book, brother. That's not in. I showed you the piece, brother. It's from the Tree of Language, and it actually said, brother, you have to be quiet.
You just
and it actually said you have to be quiet. It actually says the four
y'all
great
looking
heads
bad, bro.
are China, India,
Hold
Europe,
on,
and America.
Time. I stopped the clock. Yo, Oahpe, y'all are falling apart because you got a brother who's not goddamn disciplined. He not disciplined, Cosmon, my man, but he's making y'all look bad. He don't have no self-control, and he's not disciplined, man. Come on, bro. They don't do that to you. They are not doing that. And you see the discipline of Selah, of brother Daryl Cosmon, and your brothers. You got to be disciplined, brother, because you're looking bad right now, and they got you looking bad. Go ahead, Jabari, continue.
Okay. I very clearly in the Tree of Language, under the Tree of Language, it says that the four great heads are China, India, Europe, and America. I showed you that. So obviously, just not telling the truth. Okay.
Jabari?
Could you please explain? This is for Selah.
Okay.
Could you please explain why you think that simply because the Shrine of Ma'at uses the word shrine and another group uses the word shrine, it means that I'm working with them? Can you explain how that works?
It wasn't me showing that you're working with them. It was just showing that you're using modern European culture and concepts.
Because the word shows concepts. The word is what does that?
Yeah.
Oh, one word. Okay, thank you. That's good. Right. Also, I want you to explain to me why you would actually say something as ridiculous that why is it Africans didn't reinterpret the Kemetic language when you knew that we were actually enslaved during that time? Can you explain why you expected enslaved
that was my whole
to
point
be able to have access to a language and we decipher it?
That was my whole point of saying Bantu Negroes from the continent. That's on the continent. Because those brothers that was on the continent, right up the street from the pyramids, the ones who didn't get enslaved, were still there. That's why I asked at the ending of that part of my debate.
Okay, stop. I want you to understand that simply because people were still on the continent, were not enslaved, their societies were in turmoil, and then they were visited by colonialism. By the way, the Bantu people are not people that go to Kemet. They're in southern Africa. So I maybe you don't know what a Bantu is. Can you tell us where the Bantu people are located on the continent? This is my question. Stop. This is my question. Can you tell us where on the continent the Bantu people are located?
In the Congo.
Okay. How far is the Congo from ancient Kemet in miles?
It's pretty far, but that doesn't exclude the
Well, give us an estimate, brother.
Came from Germany to explore.
Give us an estimate, brother. Give me an estimate.
I don't know the estimate of where Congo is from.
You don't have one? Okay, you don't have one. That's good. Okay, thank you. You don't have one. No. I also want to know why the Book of Oahpe tells us that modern humans were developed around 72,000 years ago, when science tells us that modern humans emerged 300,000 years ago. Why is it? Does your creator not understand basic science? That's the question. Yes or no? Does your creator not understand basic science?
Yes.
He does?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, thank you. I'm glad that you were able to not be honest about it, because at least that tells us where you are. Can you acknowledge that the drawings in the Book of Oahpe for ancient Kemet are completely incorrect? Can you acknowledge that? Yes or no?
Okay, yeah, they're incorrect. Yeah.
Okay. Why is it your deity was not able to give us a correct image? Isn't he all-knowing?
A correct image of who?
I just asked you, brother, you understand the question. Stop. Why is it that he doesn't have a correct image if your deity is all-knowing? You just said the image is incorrect.
But what images is incorrect?
Brother, you just agreed that. Okay, stop.
Yes,
why is it that whenever
show me the image that's incorrect? Where did you get it from?
Stop. Why is it that when we actually, this is for you again, Selah. Why is it that whenever we see Nubro draw images that are supposed to come from Kemet, he includes the compass and square that are Masonic symbols? Why does he include that? Do you think, here's the question, do you think that the compass and square is found in the papyrus on the walls of ancient Kemet? Do you think that? You don't know?
I'm sure they had to use it.
Are you saying you don't know?
No, I don't know.
Okay. Let me tell you that they aren't. But it seems pretty clear that you're unfamiliar with so much of the information that we're actually talking about. Can I also ask you? I'm sorry. Were you saying something, Asar?
That was Cosmon.
Okay. So let me ask you this: why is it that the writer of your book actually says that the Great Merkut, the Great Pyramid, was built by someone named Tothma, who was clearly a white man? Why would he say that?
Well,
why would he say it? That's for you, Selah. Answer the question, brother.
He didn't say Tothma was a white man. You're going by the depiction of his work.
It's his drawing, though.
Right, but
we know that Tothma doesn't exist. Who's Tothma? That's not the person who built it. So he's wrong. Can you acknowledge that he's wrong?
Well, basically,
Brother Selah, can you acknowledge that he is wrong?
No.
Answer the question, please.
No, I'm not getting lost up in the names, because the architect is what we
Brother, he tells us his name is Tothma. He even gives a second name, Hojax.
Right.
Can you acknowledge that those names are wrong?
Those names are not recorded. No? Tothma is recorded in history, but Hojax not recorded in history. But
Tothma is the builder of the Great Pyramid, and Hojax?
We align Hojax with Kofi.
Brother, the question is he wrong? Did he build the Great Pyramid?
According to the text, yes.
Okay, thank you. It's very clear that you understand he's wrong. Why is it that when he draws images of the great spiritual leaders, he does not include any people that are black?
You just lying.
Why is it that all of the pictures of the great spiritual leaders are not black?
They are.
Well, according to what's written in the Oahpe, they're depicted as copper.
No, I'm asking you about the drawings, his own drawings, brother. Can you tell us why none of his drawings include black people?
Which Druk?
I can't tell you what was on his mind when he's drawing the pictures, but what's according in the text, they're copper-colored, brown-skinned people, according to the text.
Who are the copper-colored, brown-skinned people? Which one are you saying is copper-colored? Which spiritual leader is copper-colored?
All of them.
No, I'm saying what's in the when you read the text from the
brother. Which one of them is copper-colored?
Cosmon just told you all of them.
All of them are copper-colored? Then why did he draw them as copper-colored?
The prophets described.
Wait a minute, Selah. Stop, Selah. Stop, Selah. Stop, Selah. You may not think that the sun gives heat, but you're getting heat now. I want you to tell me why he didn't draw any of them as black.
You would have to ask him that. I can't tell you that.
Oh, so you don't know. So he's wrong? Is he wrong? Or do you not think there are any great spiritual leaders that come from?
Let me tell you something. We don't even acknowledge those pictures.
No, here's the question. Here's the question.
Those are drawings.
Do you also agree that there are no great spiritual leaders that come from Africa? Do you agree? Now I'm asking you, Selah Shalom, the brother that talks really loud on the internet. What do you think?
Yeah, of course they got great spiritual leaders in Africa. What you trying to say?
Can you name one based on your book?
Based on my book?
No, the answer is no. Thank you. They're not included.
Thank you very much.
Go ahead.
Thank you so much. I just want to ask the brother Malachi Maccabee, how are you a Hebrew Israelite worshiping Yahweh who says there are no other gods, but you also subscribe to a Bible where Jehovah says all these other gods are nothing?
What do you mean? How am I Israelite by nationality and subscribing to?
So you no longer believe in Yahweh? I
believe in the Most High Creator.
Is that Yahweh?
That's who I believe in. It depends on the actions of who you call Yahweh. So, for example, if Yahweh is saying go murder children, kill off nations, that's not.
Come on, stop him.
If Yahweh is saying,
okay, let me stop you like my brother Jabari said. Malachi, I don't want to be rude to you, but I got to stop you, brother, because of time. Do you follow Torah and subscribe to the Bible, the God of the Bible, or have you abandoned that God and you now only serve Jehovah of Oahpe?
I deal with the great spirit, the ever-present creator. The good that I'm commanded to do is to you and to everybody else.
Okay, does your God, does Jehovah, I don't mean to do, I have to do this. Does Jehovah say all other gods are nothing?
Jehovah says, or the creator says, he prunes up gods, he prunes their orchards up as if they are nothing.
Okay, they are nothing. So let me ask you another question, since you're answering, I appreciate this. I want to ask you another question. Why in the Oahpe Bible are the Druks, whether you say they're not black, they're the darkest people represented? Yeah. Why are they castrated? Because they have sex with the Ayin, the lighter skinned women. Why in the book it says that they must be castrated, the dark Druks?
No, those are the yaks, actually. Those are the monstrosities.
Those are the children of the Druks, right?
Yeah,
okay, why do those dark-skinned men have to be... No, brother, I have to clarify. Why do those dark-skinned men have to be castrated for wanting to sleep with the light-skinned women?
The yaks are the ones that were commanded to be castrated. These were the monstrosities. It was a monstrosity.
Why were they told to be castrated?
Because you don't want a monstrosity to multiply.
No, and they were trying to have sex with the Ayin women, yes or no?
Yeah, no, you're talking about the yaks. You're not talking about the
Were they trying to have sex with the light-skinned women?
The monstrosities you're talking about.
We're trying to have sex with the light-skinned women.
You're talking about primitive.
He's answered the question.
Okay, so they were trying to have sex with the light-skinned women, right?
You were asking, the monstrosity was trying to have sex with all the women.
1 minute.
Okay, thank you. Moving on. Take a question. I'm handing it over.
Okay, question. Let me ask you.
Did you want to say something, Asar?
Yes, sir. If I could, real quick.
Go ahead.
So your book says that the extinction of the dinosaurs is because the humans ate their eggs. Do you believe that story?
It's not in Oahpe.
It's in the book of knowledge.
No, it's not.
Yeah, it is.
No, it's not.
That's in one of your apocryphal books, B. Your God said it.
It's
Chapter
not.
and verse.
Okay, here's
Here, let me pull it up.
yeah, question.
man,
No, don't do that.
what
That's
are you
wasting
doing?
time. Question.
God
Final
damn,
question. Final question for Cosmo and Maccabees. I think I'm saying your name right. If I am, it's not in.
Maccabees.
Can you tell us if you are comfortable with John Balo Nubro's liberal use of the word nigger in his novel Fall of Fort Sumter? Are you comfortable with it? Yes or no?
You talking? Who you talking to me?
Yes, I'm talking to you.
Okay, well, look, if you read The Fall of Fort Sumter, any reference to who you calling nigger or slavery is divine by God.
That's not the question, brother. I'm sorry, brother. I'm asking, are you comfortable with his liberal use? You have to stop. Are you comfortable with your author's liberal use of the word nigger in his novel? Yes or no?
Those on his words. Those are the letters of someone else writing a letter.
No, he wrote it. He wrote the book, brother. He wrote the book.
But those are the words of a Southern clergyman writing his letter.
I'm sorry. Wait a minute. Wait.
Yes.
The Southern clergyman is fictional. The words were written by John Balo Nubro. Are you comfortable with the use of the word nigger by this white Manhattan doctor in 1860? That is the answer. The question, brother. Answer the question. Are you comfortable with his use of the word nigger on many pages of his novel? Answer yes or no.
The answer is those on his words.
That answer must be yes.
Those are the words. Those on his words.
Jabari,
and then look,
all right. Hey, yo, man. I forgot how bad Jabari ass is, man. This dude sound like a goddamn lawyer on the stand, man. Yo, without question, I never rated this debate. I never said who won. But after looking at this again for the second time, because I had it in the vault, it is clear that Jabari gave this win to the Kemetic side. Just with the question and answering alone. I think Selah Shalom and the other brother should have been the head that would be asking the question. Because Cosmon, that was some goofy stuff there, brother. You was asking some crazy stuff, Jabari, and then the Paul near the end, like had my man Malachi Maccabee on the ropes. Yo, goddamn, they couldn't even answer them questions. So y'all know I mess with my boy Selah and all that. Straight love with them. We're gonna have to do this again, man. But damn, Jabari killed him on the question and answer alone. Question and answer alone. If I'm wrong, let me know. Peace and blessing, y'all. Peace. We out.